Mkhwebane is entitled to her multi-million rand gratuity. Mpofu says the provisions for Mkhwebane's gratuity have been made under the basic service condition, which comprises of an allowance, salary and benefits. However, Mpofu's argument has been challenged by presiding judge Ompimedze Mooki, who informed Mpofu that gratuity does not exist under the basic service condition.
Why would, in the case that you are pleading or making submissions on, why would a gratuity fall under benefit as opposed to, say, under salary or under, what was the third element?
Allowance.
Under allowance. So why does it follow that it has to be an extension of what the court is to understand as a meaning of benefit?
Yes.
State prosecutor in the Pastor Mboro case, Piello Vilakazi, says the safety of the state witnesses will be compromised if Mboro and the other two accused are released on bail. Pastor Paseka Mutsening, together with his son and bodyguard, are appearing at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court. They face charges of kidnapping, assault, intimidation and contravention of the Dangerous Weapons Act. This relates to a video that went viral on social media showing the trio armed with pangas and a gun, forcibly entering Matsidiso Primary School in Katlehong in Ekurhuleni 2 weeks ago. Vilakazi says Mutsening gave police addresses that were unverifiable. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has confirmed that a member of the Presidential Protection Unit, whose vehicle was involved in a hit-and-run on Friday, has committed suicide this morning. A female pedestrian, Pumla Mtali, was killed along the Phoenix Highway. The state vehicle was later found abandoned in a sugarcane field after it was reported stolen by the officer. The police officer, whose name has not yet been disclosed, was seconded to the Royal Protection Unit, tasked with safeguarding members of the AmaZulu royal household. Mkhwanazi says the state vehicle was not authorized to be used at the place and time that the hit-and-run took place. He says as police were following up various leads, the officer then called his brother to confess and then committed suicide.
So among some of the investigation we're doing there was to touch DNA in the vehicle, to check whose DNA was there in the steering wheel that was driving that car at the time before we find it. That is one. Two, we had to do many other leads to try and see who was in that crime scene of the hit and run when it happened, which phones were there, who was communicating whoever in that area, and also the tracking devices on vehicles that we have.
Western Cape Minister of Agriculture and Economic Development, Ivan Meyer, says he has had fruitful talks with Transnet's Port of Cape Town management on improving services at the facility. The World Bank Container Port Performance Index of 2023 has ranked the Port of Cape Town as the worst performing port in the world. The report highlighted the urgent need for substantial reforms. Mayer says he has emphasized the importance of the port as the economic hub of the province to carry out the provincial government's growth plans.
The harbour of Cape Town is the biggest link in the agricultural export in the Western Cape. I have recently visited the harbour and I was informed of the new developments in the management of the harbour and the investment of new infrastructure to increase our Western Cape exports. There are a number of new initiatives to increase our exports, and I will continue to partner with the Ports Authority to achieve our exports targets.
And finally, a report in Australia has revealed the effect of long COVID on the economy, which is estimated to have cost the country more than $6 billion. The study found that 100 million working hours were lost in 2022 to coronavirus symptoms up to a year after an initial diagnosis. Researchers say this meant about a quarter of Australia's economic growth was wiped out. Recapping the top story, advocate Dalim Mpofu has argued at the High Court in Pretoria that former public protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane is entitled to her multi-million rand gratuity. Headlines at 3:30.
Coming up in your sports this hour, West Indies rest Russell and Holder for South Africa T20 series, and Walaza's mother receives sponsored trip to Junior World Champs. More details at 3:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Welcome to the show. It is the National Pulse. It's a Monday afternoon following that weekend where many people do different things, but they certainly reflect on the issues that clearly matter. And that's what we cover, because welcome to the show. Let's cover the issues and the conversations that move you. My name is Ashraf Garda. The show is called the National Pulse, and for a reason, because we reflect the issues that impacts on the pulse of the nation every single day, every hour, if and when it happens. So what for you, like today, what for you moves the national pulse? There's a sense of where the needle of this, if I can call it that, the national pulse is. What for you moves the national pulse today? You can call in right away, 086 000 2032. You got that? 086 000 2032. And you can also WhatsApp us in text or in voice note form as well. I'll tell you what, let me just talk about this. I think I just want to mention this, right? Did you see, not so much about the fight where Dricus du Plessis won, but Siya Kolisi and Eben Etzebeth basically being fans, like super fans, really giving him the type of backing that you'd want from other South Africans. So that's the one. And I looked at it and I said, wow. Then I saw a clip of the Wynberg Boys High School rugby game and the war cry and the leader getting his entire group of students on to rile themselves up and to get sort of completely in the zone for their big school match, right? And then I reflected on Northwood High, because I saw something similar with Northwood High as well. And in all cases, I was like, wow, man. And then, remember when Bayanda Walaza got home to his school, the Cura school, the silver medalist, Olympic silver medalist, remember this 18-year-old in matric. And again, the reception he was given, not just like clapping and applause, but absolute chanting. Now, all of those fall under, what you'd call war cries or school anthems or, sporting anthems. And you know what they have in common? They are incredibly powerful. They are powerful. They are inspiring. They lift you to the point, and I'm really talking of the war cries, okay? They lift you to the point where sometimes they're even more exciting than watching an actual game. Now, why I say this is this, what they all have in common, all of them, they are all cheerleaders for all things South African. And I think it's something we need to make a note of. When you are a cheerleader for your country, you just lift your country to another level. Be aware, therefore, of your power and the magical power of cheerleaders at school venues, sporting venues, and also cheerleaders in all the great things we do in our country. Well, that's my point. What's yours?
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Right, let's get to some of the biggest issues that we're going to cover right away, okay? First things first, well, you can certainly comment on my talk about war cries and you being a cheerleader for your country and what that means, okay? But let's talk about, it's a big day in terms of reflecting where the ANC is, right? Now, as you may be aware, the ANC's National Working Committee is currently in KwaZulu-Natal to evaluate the state of the ANC post this year's general elections. We all know that the party lost its majority in KwaZulu-Natal, besides nationally, so 57% of the vote in KZN dropping to 17%. That is a huge, huge difference, okay? So as part of this assessment of the ANC by the ANC, what would be the best formula for the ANC to fix what went wrong in the province? Certainly the president of the ANC, the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, believes they would be on track to resolve many of the issues. But do you believe that what he says is right, or is he just being a cheerleader for the ANC? Precious Lugayeni is with me, who's an independent political analyst. Precious, welcome to the National Pulse. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and your listeners.
Thank you so much, right? Okay, what's your initial assessment? First of all, in terms of I mean, in a normal world, 57 to 17, I mean, that is as damning as you can get, isn't it?
In fact, from 57 to 17 is actually dismal. But it's not surprising that the NWC is here to assess what can be done to revive the fortunes of the party. You'll recall that KwaZulu-Natal has the second largest voting population next to Gauteng. So what happens in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng is likely to inform or determine what happens in the country. But the NWC actually came to KwaZulu-Natal as all the parties, but particularly the big ones, have been coming to KwaZulu-Natal before the election to come and campaign KwaZulu-Natal because of the number of the voting population. Now, after this dismal performance of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, the NWC came. In fact, the spokesperson, who's this guy, did say that they've come to assess what went wrong and what can be done to revive the fortunes of the party in the province. Of course, even the secretary of the ANC in the province did give his view as to what does he think happened. One of those things is that he agrees that the ANC in the province has challenges, and one of those challenges is the emergence of the MK, which took away a lot of voters from the ANC. Because even trying to revive the ANC from the branches is going to be a difficult task, because some of the branches have just gone to the MK as branches. Remember, the MK does not have its own branches. It uses branches of the ANC. So that is what is happening here. But the issue of disbanding the provincial executive or leadership, the spokesperson said it's not on the card. If it happens, it will be informed by what they find after the discussions that are taking place from yesterday to today.
And based upon your observations, not just pronouncements by the ANC, but observations on the ground from the ANC and in particular the MK party, right? Do you have a sense that the ANC has the not just the political will, but the actual mechanism to turn this thing around?
Well, first of all, Ashraf, I think the ANC didn't think that the MK would do the kind of damage that it did. And that is why maybe the performance in KwaZulu-Natal is worse than in other provinces because of the strong MK in the province. But I think the ANC, although the polls did indicate that there will be a loss, but when you are used to winning, you think, man, I may not lose. But I think the MK did a lot of damage to the ANC because most of the members of the MK were actually members of the ANC. In other words, is a section, is a certain disgruntled section of the ANC, and then that actually hit the ANC hard.
So here's the thing, right? If there ever is going to be a turnaround, if ever, right? What do you think the ANC needs to be looking to do? Because what are the low-hanging fruits? What are the longer visions? And then where does that support come from? Meaning in terms of their tactical and strategic approach to be able to claw back that lost ground, win back those voters.
I must say, for me, I may be wrong. There are no low-hanging fruits in this matter. All the fruits are actually very high on the tree. One of the reasons why there are no lower-hanging fruits is because the MK is led by the former president, Jacob Zuma, who is very popular in the province. And also, the former president Zuma is popular not only in KwaZulu-Natal but elsewhere as well. That makes it difficult for the ANC. In fact, the ANC was at war with itself when former president said he's going to campaign for the MK, but he's going to remain the member of the ANC. But the low-hanging fruit is that maybe not very low though, is that now that the former president has been expelled by the ANC, he has no access to ANC issues because he's outside. Maybe the MK the ANC can utilize those. But also the service delivery issues remain an issue in the province. So it may be difficult for the ANC to revive itself. And again, as I indicated earlier, because Begin said they are going to start from the branches, some branches have actually gone to the MK as a branch. So in other words, they are branches that are no longer belonging to the ANC. It would be extremely difficult for them to claim that voter confidence.
And maybe lastly on this one, I mean, besides what the ANC is doing or not doing, right, you having a sense of the people on the ground. You know, sometimes people vote in an election and then like a month or two later, like, oh my goodness, what did I do, man? I so regret this, right? Do you get a sense, because clearly for that drop to have emerged from 57 to 17, something substantial had to happen, not so much to the ANC and the MK party, but to the people, to the electorate, the people that actually voted, right? Do you get a sense that the people who voted for the MK party are satisfied in the choice and the acts they made, or do you have a sense at all that there's some degree of regret?
But without any evidence, I can't say they regret. But my observation, which is my opinion, after the general elections in the province, there were by-elections. And if you look at the performance of the MK party, you would think that the MK party is going to win all those by-elections. But most, if not all of those by-elections were won by the IFP. It means then that there is something there that we don't know. And also that some members of parliament, which are members of the MK, are being recalled from parliament, might have an impact on the confidence people had on the MK. So when what the ANC may benefit from will be the cracks within the MK. The cracks within the MK may benefit the ANC. It depends on they capitalize on those.
Well, I often end up conversations by asking you to look for a sign. What were you, if you were a supporter of the ANC, what would be the sign you'd be looking for now?
The sign that people would be looking for is what the ANC is doing on the ground that people can see. It will not help the ANC to have discussions in closed offices and people do not see what is happening. People need evidence that the ANC has changed and then they can actually relook at their position.
Okay.
But the people see what the ANC is doing. Not look, champions are not formed in the ring, but they are seen in the ring.
Okay, that's a good point. Let's leave it at that. Precious Lukhayeni, who's an independent political analyst. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. So here's a question to you, particularly if you come from the KZN region, okay? Your party, when I say yours, the ANC, dropped from 57 to 17% in that one province alone. Now, they obviously want to win back support. You have the MK party, who's now a major player in that province, and you have others like the IFP as well. Do you see any evidence of remorse in voting from people who voted to say, what did I do? Or do you get a sense to say, I did the right thing? In fact, you're getting the opposite, where people who did not vote for the MK party are like saying, actually, next time round, I'm going to do that. That's the one thing. Furthermore, do you get a sense at all that the ANC, having lost as much ground as they have, are on track of putting in place mechanisms to ensure they can win back that support, however difficult that may be? And if you have any thoughts on that, like grassroots evidence, let me know. It may be anecdotal, but I want to know about it. You can voice note us 0614 104 107. You can also text us on that same number. And by the way, if you want to join the WhatsApp channel for the National Pulse, just WhatsApp that number as well and say, hey, let me join the channel. 086 000 2032 to call in as well. And I'll take your calls live.
Every day our children are exposed to relentless marketing of unhealthy foods where they live, learn and play. This aggressive marketing of unhealthy foods to children can shape their eating habits and food preferences for the rest of their lives. I'm your host, Crystal Audison. Is big food stalking our children? Watch Chew on This on healer.org on Thursday, 15th August at 3 p.m.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Get affordable car insurance and do more with the money you could save every month. I mean, that's the challenge we all have, isn't it? Now, 69-year-old Vivian can do just that. She can afford to treat herself more now that she pays an awesome car insurance premium of, listen to this one, $749. I mean, that's it, to insure her grey 2024 Suzuki Jimny at 85DR. So, do you want more? SMS out to 30754 to get a quote. That's out to 30754. You can do that now. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
By the way, I always ask for comments. Here's a quick one saying, Ashraf, good afternoon. I hope this message finds you well. I believe this video serves as an excellent example of the positive change our youth is capable of bringing to our country. This is the kind of progress we aspire to and see, and it reflects the vision we have for our nation. If we can focus more on such uplifting developments and less on negativity, I am confident we can continue moving forward. This aligns with the spirit of transformation we saw back in 1994. This is just my perspective, driven by my deep love for our country and all its people, from Gert Lucas Ruiz. Thanks for that, Gert. So, of course, the video is a Facebook link. I'm going to check it out. I really want to. And maybe it's a good challenge to all of you, okay? Are we cheerleaders for our country in the same way that you get Sia Kolisi, as well as you get some of the other players? I mean, as you saw some of the rugby guys, besides Sia, you saw Eben Etzebeth do it, but also the cheerleaders at school events, the cheerleaders for the Olympic silver medalists at his school. I'm talking about Bayanda Walatz. Are you a cheerleader for your country, for your community? And how do you do that? And I'm talking about beyond just war cries, although I'll tell you what, those war cries are just absolute magic. If you've got further videos of war cries, just tweet it out. Tag us on SFM Radio on Facebook and Twitter, but also you can WhatsApp us right away. Let's get to Global Watch now. We unpack the SADC summit that is currently underway in Zimbabwe. We've been speaking about it all of last week, remember? Now, the summit is responsible for the overall policy direction and control of functions of this broader community, ultimately making this the all-important policy-making decisions for SADC. It's an institution, right? So how effective is this body in terms of decision-making, and maybe how do we track just their overall effectiveness and overall impact? Prof. Lovemore Maduku is with me, president of the NCA party, professor of law at the University of Zimbabwe. Prof. Maduku, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Yes, I am fine. How are you?
I'm very good indeed, right? Perhaps you can help us with the answers here to this one. First of all, SADC, are you a supporter in terms of its ability to positively impact the Southern African region? Because we do get people who listen in, and many give them some thumbs up. Others are like, honestly, what is SADC doing?
Well, I think that I would expect every right-thinking person in Southern Africa to support SADC. Just like you have, it's not a unique institution. You have these regional bodies everywhere in the world. So you'd have regional bodies. You have ECOWAS. You go to the Americas, you get that. You go to the EU, you get every regional framework does have a body one way or the other. You have the African Union, and these bodies are essential for coordination of efforts.
Well, I suppose they are. So maybe let's talk about some of
in terms of development.
All right, we just lost you for a second. You were talking about coordination of efforts. I got that right. What then has come through for you so far in terms of this year's SADC summit?
Well, for this year's SADC summit, we know that the main theme was to try and galvanize energies towards industrialization and innovation. Innovation, industrialization. You know that the weakness in Southern Africa is that we are still very much raw material oriented. So we have minerals, we have food that we are trying to produce, we have all sorts of things, but we are not industrializing. In other words, we are not doing enough of the beneficiation that everyone has been calling for. So we need to move to that stage where we move from raw materials to producing things of greater value for our region, so that we benefit from our own natural resources here.
Let's talk about, besides the issues of innovation and resources, right? What about some of the biggest challenges? For example, let's start with a country that you know too well, which is Zimbabwe, right? Nelson Chamisa, we spoke to him about a week ago. He made the point Zimbabwe is the problem child of SADC. So, did anything come through in terms of pronouncing on Zimbabwe?
Well, I think that the mistake that may be made is to always take these regional bodies as political institutions which are focusing simply on politics. Politics is part and parcel of our overall goal of economic prosperity. Of course, we need good governance, we need human rights observance, we need the rule of law, observance of the rule of law. But that is not the only thing that ought to be focused on. So in the case of Zimbabwe, we know that there still are some sections of our community who say that the last elections that were fought in August 2023 were not free and fair, and therefore there ought to be some adjudication by SADC. But that is to lose effect. That is completely mistaken. When an election takes place in a particular country in SADC, you have to engage the judicial bodies there. There are courts in every country. So if you're not happy with an election, you go to court. So there was no one here who went to court. No one went to court in the respect
Is it not a case of sometimes they can't go to court? What I mean, legally they can, but there's been so many examples of intimidation that then people choose not to go to court.
Yeah, but once you have not gone to court, you should not even expect to go to SADC. SADC expects you to reach them after you have exhausted your internal remedies. So the question of the election in Zimbabwe being a SADC issue is not an issue at all. It's not something that SADC will take. It's not just the view of the SADC leaders, but even Zimbabweans themselves. They have said the elections have come and gone. We expect the next elections in 2028. And if anyone wanted to engage SADC on anything, this summit, it was about other issues: industrialization, innovation.
But how do you remove politics and geopolitics from economic development, like innovation and industrialization? I'm just saying, how do you remove?
You are making the mistake that politics is about elections. It's not politics; it's about someone wanting to get power. You prefaced your question by telling me that Nelson Chamisa wanted SADC to address the issue of the elections, and I was telling you that the issue of the elections in Zimbabwe is not something to be addressed by SADC. It ought to have first been addressed by the courts in Zimbabwe. And I think that is also a mistake to try and identify Zimbabwe as the only country whose matters or political issues ought to be addressed at SADC. There's so many political problems in Southern Africa, and the most critical ones, Mozambique, DRC, those ones were addressed and they were part of the summit. But you cannot take the issue relating to the last election. Even the human rights abuses that are taking place in Zimbabwe and other places, they are not yet ripe for SADC. They ought to be addressed first and foremost in the countries in which these things are taking place.
Okay,
SADC is a regional body.
I understand that. So as we wrap up, you've touched on Mozambique and the DRC. One can include Seswati in the same breath and Lesotho. But maybe here's the thing then. How then, as we get to news time, how then do you measure the overall impact of SADC as a body on a year-to-year basis? Prof. Maduku, do I have you there?
Hello? Yes, I think I missed you there.
I was saying, how then do you measure the overall impact of SADC as an entity on a year-to-year basis?
No, it's a very effective entity. It's growing, and it's an effective entity. And you must always judge SADC on the same yardstick you would judge other regional bodies. You judge SADC on the basis you judge other international bodies. Don't then overdo it like what we have seen some people. SADC is not a country. It is a regional grouping. And there are so many regional groupings. Progress comes slowly because you are dealing with several countries.
All right.
And with SADC, we are doing very well.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Prof. Lavo Maduku, who's the president of the NCA party and professor of law based at the University of Zimbabwe. Agree with him or not? Well, he's got his point. What's your point? Let's get the news headlines now. Here's Utsile.
Thanks, Ashraf. Good afternoon. In the headlines at 3:30, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is calling on the suspects who shot and killed 6 people in Umlazi, south of Durban at the weekend, to hand themselves over. Mchunu and Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi visited the crime scene today. Advocate Dalim Mpofu has argued at the High Court in Pretoria that former Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane is entitled to her multi-million rand gratuity. And the British government has activated emergency measures to ease prison overcrowding and make room for hundreds of people arrested over the recent wave of violent unrest. Details at 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, in central Johannesburg, the M1 southbound queuing towards Crown Interchange and Heidelberg Road has delays on the link to the M2 West. In KZN, the N3 westbound, an earlier crash after Spaghetti Junction has been cleared, but traffic remains slow moving. And the N3 eastbound in Pietermaritzburg, as roadworks reported, the right lane is closed between Market Road and Gladys Nzansi Bridge for long-term roadworks. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, Bakencroft Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway, and Strand Road eastbound in Stikland slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
So, to me, after a win-win-win weekend for South Africa, what's the big sports stories today?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. We start off with cricket. West Indies all-rounders Andre Russell and Jason Holder have been rested for this month's 3-match T20 home series against South Africa. Medium pacer Matthew Ford and all-rounder Fabian Ailen, who missed the T20 World Cup, have returned to the squad. Fast bowler Alzari Joseph, who was rested for the Test series against South Africa this month, is absent from the 15-man squad along with the injured opening batter Brandon King. Now, the series will be played on the 23rd of August, 25th and 27th of August, and we're hoping that South Africa continues with the winning ways. Then 9 days to go to the Paralympics, and Team South Africa has competitors across athletics, archery, cycling, judo, equestrian, triathlon, swimming and wheelchair. And South Africa's flag bearers for the Paralympics are T44 100-meter sprinter and long jumper Mpumelelo Mhlongo and swimmer Catherine Swanepoel. Among Team South Africa's contingent are wheelchair tennis players Lucas Setole and KG Munchani. In football, Stellenbosch FC coach Steve Barker says that they will be moving to sign new players to replace the departed Ikram Reyners and Dean van Rooyen. Reyners moved to Mamelodi Sundowns and skipper van Rooyen to Orlando Pirates in a major blow for Barker's plans to turn his side into a title-challenging side. Carl Jurgens have been van Rooyen's replacement in their last 2 matches, but Barker says that this is only a temporary solution. Then moving on to athletics, Kuro Hazeldean High School have offered to cover the travel expenses for Bayanda Walaza's mother, Toliwe, to attend the World Athletics Under-20 Championships in support of her son. The event is set to take place from the 27th to the 31st of August in Peru, and it will see Walaza compete in his second major international event in less than a month after he helped Team South Africa secure a silver medal in the 4x100 meter relay at the Paris Olympic Games.
To the Hazeldean family, okay, I'll say, like, I truly appreciate what they're doing to me. Like, they're showing appreciation of what am I doing, and I'm also showing appreciation for whatever they're doing to me. So I'd like to thank them a lot, because of my coach who was here because of the Hazeldean family. They paid for him everything to come here to support me, and also they're gonna pay for my mother to come at Peru at the World Champs. So, like, I thank them a lot. Like, I'm truly thankful for whatever they do.
What a way to support your own talent as a school. I think this is absolutely a great initiative that they have. It was also great to see the Minister of Education when they were giving him his medal at the school. She was in attendance, so it's quite great to see how the Department of Education is going to team up with the Department of Sports to make sure that they encourage someone like Walaza to continue on to do his best when it comes to athletics. Then in boxing, Mike Tyson says that he's prepared for his bout with Jake Paul on the 15th of November after the fight's original date had to be postponed. The pair were due to fight on the 20th, but Tyson had an ulcer flare-up that forced that match with the YouTuber to be rescheduled. The fight, which will be held at the 80,000 capacity AT&T Stadium in Texas, is a professional fight with a string of conditions. Tyson has not fought professionally since 2005, but says that he's ready to knock Paul out, and I do believe that because I've seen a couple of videos of him just training, and man, oh man, Tyson still has it. With that said, it's a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour.
I mean, just a comment about Walaza. I mean, it's true about making sure that his mother goes, because I mean, that's the ultimate super fan. Can I say that? I mean, I'm sure you get my point, right? That's the point.
Absolutely.
But I understand he's the fastest teenager in the world in sprint.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we have a potential world's number one.
Yeah.
I mean, even when he becomes an older guy at 21, 22.
The future is bright, huh?
The potential is frightening. That's why we said be a cheerleader for South Africa. If you are able to send us pictures, not just in sport, but in politics, in business, in achievements, in sciences, of you being a cheerleader, and maybe at an event where people are just praising the person that you're talking about, then just send us the pictures or videos. I'd love to see that sort of level of cheerleading, the way we do it with our sports teams.
I wish I took a video of myself while I was watching the Olympics, the 100 meter 4x100 meter relay. My goodness. I was up screaming. Literally screaming. I'm that kind of a cheerleader.
Well, I'll tell you what, maybe we'll get you to do a retake. Can you do that? I mean, we'll give you some time to think about it, work on it, audition and rehearse, and then you can do that screaming, as you call it, right? Or from To Me, screaming or not, coming up in an hour's time.
Winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Tamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Catch me, Bonang Mateba, on a fresh reality series that showcases the business behind being a business. Get to experience an intimate look at my life with family, personal growth, and my mission to uplift young women. Jet with me as we prepare to crown a lucky chaser. Be grounded, be entertained, and be dazzled. Monday, 6 p.m. on S3, it's a date with you and B. Catch Bedazzled by Bonang on S3 every Monday at 6 p.m.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
I've always said, wherever you may be in the country, in whichever town, whichever city, anywhere in the world, just give us a shout out and take a picture of yourself or a picture of you locked in with a dial locked into SFM, and people often do that. That's fabulous. Okay, so today some of the comments. Vafunzi saying we are together from Jamaica Street. Constantine saying I'm with you at my workshop in Oliven, right? The Bishi saying SADC is the only organization to solve the Zimbabwean problem. They just need to pull up their socks. Yes, they are trying, but they need to do more for the Zimbabwean people. And Brian Given Mahusha saying, good afternoon, listening from Pretoria. You certainly put Pretoria on the map, I can tell you. Let's get to some of the WhatsApp voice notes we've had.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners. What ANC must do to regain the voters, it's simple. They must recall Mr. Ramaphosa. Mr. Ramaphosa is the bad president of ANC and the president of the country. Moketi Ramatshediso in Bothaville.
Ashraf Butigodlo from Taung in Lekale Machonisa. These regional bodies to me are not important because leaders can overthrow one another. There is no report or maybe action taken against those leaders who have overthrown a democratically elected government. Leaders can rig the elections. No action is taken against those leaders. So to me, it is not important. Look at the European Union. You will never find those things at the European Union. European Union is quick to act against its own leaders. I thank you.
Hey Ashraf, do you remember that for the ANC to be popular in KZN, it took Jacob Zuma to bring it closer to the traditional leaders? And currently, the ANC is very far from the traditional leaders because they took the mic, so they must bring back the mic. And then maybe they will receive some few votes. But from where I'm looking, they're not going to survive this. Thanks, it's Bongi here in KwaZulu-Natal, Newcastle.
There we are, Simongi. You got like the analysis spot on. I think you're spot on. They have to bring in the traditional leaders, and the question is, why has the ANC dropped the mic and lost connection with the traditional leaders? If that is what Jacob Zuma has been able to do even before, when the IFP ruled KZN a long time ago, so that changed dramatically. So yeah, if I were the ANC, I'd be listening to you. I can tell you that now. As far as SADC is concerned, I agree with you. In fact, I don't know. I mean, I had a conversation with my guest, as you know, but I think, yes, you can't excuse geopolitics from this or eliminate it. And I think there are many issues around human rights that SADC is silent on. But to be very fair, you talk about Europe, I can tell you now, there are many issues of human rights that the European Union are also silent on. So let's get perspective. We can have a whole show on that, okay? And maybe other countries in other regions like North America, and we can tick off what they've done and what they haven't done. So I hear you. Maybe they fail across the board. And just the last one, Ramaphosa. Well, I don't know. Are you saying if the ANC gets rid of Ramaphosa, all the ANC supporters who are part of the EFF and the MK party, are they going to run to the ANC in droves? Well, the only way to test it is to get rid of Ramaphosa. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm not that convinced people do that in just one go. Right. There are more WhatsApps I want to pick up on. And if you wish to call in, male, female, young, old, wherever you may be around the country, whatever the issues that you think drives the conversation, because you, as we reflect on the national pulse, what gets your pulse rate moving today? Just raise it, right? Here's some more. Right.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon, and your guest there. Ashraf, what you were discussing with the advocate there, you won't win if it's issues of Zimbabwe. You won't win at all. Even if they go to courts, nothing will happen. I'm telling you. So it's just part of wasting time discussing, and yeah. Thank you.
I'm Professor Lopez.
You know, Maduku is ZANU-PF, man. Maduku is ZANU-PF. There is nothing you can get from him. He is always praising his peers. He's always praising ZANU-PF because he's a ZANU-PF project, that guy. There is nothing good that can come out from him. This professor is a professor of nothing. He can't comment that one, that, hey, what. With the way people are suffering from Zimbabwe. They are eating from ZANU-PF, these guys. They are being paid.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SFM listeners. You see, this man you are interviewing, Lavo Maduku, is talking nonsense. How do you go to court in a country where the electoral commission is captured, the police service is captured, the judiciary system is captured, the security forces is captured? Now he's talking of SADC being an independent body. So why did SADC condemn the election to say these elections are not free and fair? You see, these are ZANU-PF apologists who come on the radio and talk nonsense whilst people are suffering.
Okay, lots to see. I see many of you commenting about the analyst we had, certainly, as you say, a ZANU-PF project. Okay, I don't have to say more than that. I hear you, and again, that's what we do. We have a range of different voices, and they express themselves in the way they express themselves. It does mean that others will express themselves differently, as Nelson Chamisa did the other day. By the way, you can listen to that podcast of Nelson Chamisa. Just go to sfm.co.za. You'll find it. Just Google Pop Podcast. You'll pick them all up. Basically, that's what both of you have talked about, right? About maybe displeasure with how he's positioned. And I think you're right. If there's example of concern about you being locked up, then you're not going to go to court if you're going to be locked up even before that, just by voicing dissension, right? Let's get to some of the other issues now as we pick up the big issues in terms of the global watch around the Middle East. The United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said now is probably the best, maybe the last opportunity to secure a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. Blinken made his comments during a meeting with the Israeli President Isaac Herzog on Monday, during his 9th trip to the region since the war began in October 2023. The US has expressed optimism about a deal since talks resumed in Doha last week, but that level of optimism is not shared by the Israeli leadership on the one hand, as well as by Hamas on the other. So all of that gets you to think about, what does it mean by saying probably the best, maybe the last opportunity? This report from the BBC.
This is a decisive moment, probably the best, maybe the last opportunity to get the hostages home, to get a ceasefire, and to put everyone on a better path to enduring peace and security. I'm here as part of an intensive diplomatic effort on President Biden's instructions to try to get this agreement to the line and ultimately over the line. It is time for it to get done. It's also time to make sure that no one takes any steps that could derail this process.
Joining me now is our correspondent Tom Bateman, who's travelling with the US Secretary of State, and our Middle East correspondent Yulan Nell, who's in Jerusalem. And Yulan, the stakes are incredibly high for this visit, aren't they?
They are indeed, and we know Mr. Blinken's just gone in to talk to the Israeli Prime Minister. This is a meeting that is taking place behind closed doors. We don't have official details, but we know that the US is really putting this bridging proposal on the table to try to bring Israel and Hamas together to overcome the outstanding issues. That following on from this Doha summit last week, where you had the US and Qatari and Egyptian mediators present, along with an Israeli negotiating team. Now, if you look at the comments, while the Americans are sounding positive, I mean, really, from the latest statements from Israel and from Hamas as well, not that same positivity. Certainly from the Israeli Prime Minister's office, they're saying that Hamas is sticking to its positions of refusal. Hamas has really accused the Prime Minister's office of adding new conditions to the negotiations, which they say are meant to sabotage the talks. I mean, you can look at the different sort of sticking points as they emerge coming out from both sides. Really, first of all, moving from the first phase of the three-phase plan, which is supposed to be the ceasefire and hostage release deal with Palestinian prisoners being released from Israeli jails as well. And then moving from that first 6-week phase into the second phase, which should be working towards a full ceasefire. That is a problematic area. You also have where Israeli forces would remain in the Gaza Strip, which strategically important locations Israeli forces want to remain in after the Gaza war. Hamas, of course, has been demanding a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. And then also we understand there are issues around the Palestinian prisoners that will be released from Israeli jails as part of all this as well.
Well, there you are. I mean, that issue of Hamas attacking what seem to be like civilians in what is called Israel on the one hand, October 7th, and then others saying it's not just civilians, they were military targets on the one hand, and then the reprisals from the Israeli side, and not just Gaza, military people from Gaza, but an entire country, effectively, 40,000 people have died. How do you, make sense of what has happened here? And here's a question to you, and I'm talking about you, not talking about Blinken, right? Seriously speaking, I mean, at some stage you do want peace and you want justice. What do you propose? How do you attain peace and justice in that region? It can't just be peace without justice. There has to be that sense. So what for you, if you had the eyes and ears of the world and you could pronounce on it to say, that's how we're going to do this, what would you do to achieve peace and justice in the Middle East? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. 086 000 2032. But as always, voice notes are welcome. 0614 104 107. And you know this, you can also post comments on our social media platforms, Twitter or the X platform, as well as on Facebook. We'll talk about the Senzo Meyiwa issue after this.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more. Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
Right, so we're going to have an update on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial shortly. But Magdalene in Bloom, you have a view. So what's your point? Hi.
Afternoon, Azra. No, my views is about the ANC and the government and whatever that. Is it gaining momentum or what?
What?
No.
Go ahead and tell us. What is it?
Yes, we the South Africans made a point that we are no more going for a monopoly government. We want a unity of different political parties in the government. Why? We don't want to be in the state of Zimbabwe, all those African countries. I remember the other time it was said on the radio that no, South Africa is part of Africa, so it's gonna gain the same situation as the other African countries within the same continent. So we are avoiding that. That is why we go for GNU, and GNU will stay. Whether ANC loses momentum or MK gain momentum, we the South Africans have decided that we don't want to struggle like our other counterparts of other countries within Africa. We don't want it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, it's not just, to be fair, it's not just other countries in Africa. I can tell you now, there are many countries around the world outside of Africa who have huge issues around how they run their countries and around human rights issues and around how they've let people down. So I hear you, and you are right about the message that's been sent to the ANC. But it's not just this country that has failed service delivery to the people. Thanks for that, Magdalene. Let's move on now to the issue of the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. Right, there's been an update. The Defense Counsel, Zandile Mshololo, has accused the retired cell phone data analyst Colonel Lamberto Steyn of manipulating evidence in the Senzo Meyiwa case. That's huge, isn't it? Steyn has been recalled, remember, to the stand at the High Court in Pretoria to give clarity on two specific calls allegedly made between Meyiwa's then-girlfriend Kelly Khumalo and the accused number 5, that's Fisokutle Intulu, prior to the murder. However, Colonel Steyn says he will never fabricate evidence. So let's get an update on what happened today, dramatic or not, with Pearl Magubane, SABC News reporter there. Hi, Pearl. Good chatting to you as always.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and the listeners.
Good afternoon. I get a sense that the tone of the trial, changes from a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, depending on the witnesses and who said what. And today would be one of them, right?
Yes, Colonel Steyn, it's been an emotional roller coaster for him, if I may put it that way, because he's been recalled from retirement and he has had health issues, but he felt that he needed to come back to the High Court as per the state's request to come and clarify issues and sort of redeem his image or save his image, as words like manipulation and fabrication have been thrown in numerous times to describe his evidence, and that of course emanates from the Vodacom evidence that could not confirm 2 phone calls that were made in August and October 2014. However, he says while they work on the Vodacom data as well, but they take the physical phone and rely on downloads that Vodacom might not pick up, and those downloads, are the evidence that helps them formulate or analyze and have an analysis on the 2 alleged phone calls that happened prior to Miwa's murder.
Okay, so what else came up today then? So first of all, maybe let's just stay with Colonel Steyn then, in terms of having recalled, right? So his original evidence was refuted, right? What was their grounds for doing that? Like, why did they feel so convinced about that?
Yes, because I guess the defense got excited when they saw the Vodacom data that merely spoke of normal phone calls and not any data use. They got excited saying that while Steyn was adamant that these 2 phone calls happened, Vodacom data did not reveal those calls, and immediately, labeled him as somebody that manipulated evidence and a fabrication of evidence on the state side to make it look like Telu Khumalo, who's been named as the mastermind as per the confessions, 2 confessions by the 2 accused, and accused number 5 as being the one to coordinate the so-called hit that led to the actual killing of Meyiwa. But, he says that, yes, you can see the Vodacom data, but there's a program that they work with that nobody understands. He became very technical, and it seems as if the defense and himself could not find each other on numerous occasions, with him almost being frustrated to a point where he wanted to leave the courtroom because they got very hard on him. They tried to grill him and say that this thing does not exist because Vodacom doesn't know of it. But he tried to explain to say that there's more to it than the Vodacom data. There is data usage, there's WhatsApp, there was BBM that was used, which has a BlackBerry communication format at the time that was used. And, they can't just take the 2 calls based on the Vodacom evidence. They have to look at everything holistically with all the downloads that he had prepared. Okay, and that's where we're going to need to appreciate your time, Pearl Magubane, SABC News reporter, covering that all-important Senzo Meyiwa story. Let's get to some of your thoughts, and again, people have strong views, as I expect.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you, Mafuta? Ashraf, I think for me, there are 3 things that the negotiations on Palestinian peace should be encompassed. 1, a complete withdrawal of the Israeli military or influence in Palestine. 2, a complete tally of all hostages that Israel had taken from Palestine, not only since October 7, and thirdly, a 2-state solution whereby Israel and Palestine would remain and exist as 2 separate nations. Ashraf.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Garda and your listeners. Look, those who are saying Ramaphosa should go, they are afraid of the monster renewal of the ANC. They are the one who are looting this government. Anonymous from Zani.
Okay, got that. Well, I mean, there you are. I don't have to say more than that. But two-state solution, I hear you. Is there a case for a one-state solution? And if it is a one-state solution, how would that play out? I know South Africa's government has pushed for a two-state solution. Is there any space or case for a one-state solution to resolve the problem permanently of peace and justice between the Palestinians and the Israelis? Just hang on to that. I'll certainly take your thoughts and your calls as well. But let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Utsile.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories: Mboro denied bail, and Police Minister calls on Umlazi shooting suspects to hand themselves over. Good afternoon. The Palm Ridge Magistrates Court has denied bail to Pastor Paseka Mboro Mutwening and his bodyguard. Mboro's son, Revival Mutwening, has however been released on warning with conditions. This after a video that went viral on social media showing the trio armed with pangas and a gun forcibly entered Matsidiso Primary School in Katlehong. The men are facing charges of kidnapping, assault, intimidation and contravention of the Dangerous Weapons Act. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is calling on the suspects who shot and killed 6 people in Umlazi in the south of Durban at the weekend to hand themselves over. Mchunu and Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi visited the crime scene today. Reports indicate that 3 of the victims were at their rented accommodation when unknown suspects arrived and opened fire. Police say the group then killed the landlord and 2 other men. Mkhunu provided an update on the investigation.
We don't have a lot of time to be said. We have a lot of time to look for the culprit. But on our own, South African police themselves are busy. They are tracking the culprits, and they are going to find them. All I'm saying now is to say to the culprits, because I know they are aware that they committed these heinous crimes. They know we are looking for them. Then they come forward to the nearest police station. But if this sounds stupid, that they won't bring themselves to justice, we are going to find them anyway and make them account for their sins.
Meanwhile, police have confirmed that the 4th suspect who fled a shootout with police during a robbery at Ntuzuma in a separate incident yesterday is a 38-year-old police constable. He was found at a hospital where he was being treated for a gunshot wound. He was part of the 3 suspects at large following a robbery at a shop near Richmond Farm where 3 other suspects were killed. One of the deceased was also a police officer. Mkhwanazi has condemned the police's involvement in criminal activities.
He was shot in a crime scene on his hand and he ran away. But we were able to arrest him as well. Yeah, well, he's alive. Which means he needs to go to court. So the less I talk about him, the better. Otherwise, we'll compromise the court case. But he's a policeman that is working under my command here in the province, and so it's one of those that we're going to be sending him to court pretty soon.
Advocate Dalimpofu has argued in the Pretoria High Court that former public protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane is entitled to her multi-million rand gratuity. Mpofu says the provisions for Mkhwebane's gratuity have been made under the basic service condition, which comprises of an allowance, salary and benefits. However, Mpofu's argument has been challenged by presiding judge Ompimeze Mwoki, who informed Mpofu that gratuity does not exist under the basic service condition.
I would, in the case that you are pleading or making submissions on, why would a gratuity fall under benefit as opposed to, say, under salary or under, what was the third element?
Allowance.
Under allowance. So why does it follow that it has to be an extension of what the court is to understand as a meaning of benefit?
Yes.
The legal representatives of the families of the Enyobeni victims, Voisile Makabi, has suggested the version of events from witness Ntandazo Makuma, former employee at Enyobeni, as unreliable. The time frame for the series of events leading to the deaths of 21 young people inside the tavern at Scenery Park in East London in the Eastern Cape in 2022 is under the spotlight at an inquest looking into the deaths. The inquest is currently underway at the East London Regional Court sitting in Mdantsane. Maqabi says Makoma was not wearing a watch on the day in question, hence his version is unreliable. But Makoma has maintained that he was sober on the day of the tragedy, as he does not consume alcohol. And finally, further afield, the British government has activated emergency measures to ease prison overcrowding and make room for hundreds of people arrested over the recent wave of violent unrest. Some defendants awaiting court appearances in northern England will be kept in police cells until prison space is available. More than 1,000 people were arrested in connection with the anti-immigrant riots that swept parts of England and Northern Ireland earlier this month. The government had warned of an overcrowding crisis in prisons before the riots. Mark Fairhurst from the Prison Officers Association explains how the system will work.
So in reality, the most serious offences will end up in court. We will guarantee them a prison cell, and the lesser offences the police will decide, do we hold on to them or do we bail them?
Recapping the top story, the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court has denied bail to Pastor Paseka Mboro Mutwening and his bodyguard. Mboro's son, Revival Mutwening, has however been released on warning with conditions. For SAFM News, I'm Utsila Saku. I'll be back with headlines at 4:30.
Coming up in sports, TS Galaxy bolster attack with the Owetu Kumalo signing and new era for Bangladesh and Pakistan ahead of their first test. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Main Reef Road in Crown has a crash reported at Church Street. Morofontein westbound has delays towards Centenary Street, and the N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The M4 has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions at Tongaat Beach, so you're asked to expect delays. And the M7 has roadworks with traffic restrictions towards the Bel Air Road, Wakesley Road Junction. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and the M3 Philip Khosana Drive outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Our brand new Miss South Africa 2024 is Mia!
It's interesting the fact that the girls never get to sleep after being crowned.
It is true, but I also believe when we did Crown Chasers, it also gave us a sneak peek in the life of being a Miss South Africa. So I believe we all, when we came back after Crown Chasers, we knew what we signed up for. Okay, you might not get a lot of sleep, but your purpose and your why has to be stronger than your fatigue.
Oh, I like that. Your purpose and your why have to be stronger than your fatigue.
Yes.
I'm going to write that somewhere. I'm going to use that as my mantra every day. Your purpose and your why have to be stronger than your fatigue.
Exactly.
I love it. Mia LaRue, first ever hard of hearing Miss South Africa.
You are listening to The Full Circle. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I had an interesting message and I feel I must make a point to respond to this one from Mike in Mamelodi. Mike says, Ashraf, I don't understand why you make a point after a caller, but you don't let the callers stay on the line so they can counter your argument. It adds to your advantage. You can reason about time all you like, but respect your callers and listeners. From Mike in Mamelodi. Mike, let me explain to you, because that's why I want to do that. You get two types, really. You get a caller who's a caller who calls in, and then you get a person who sends a WhatsApp voice note. What we've just played now, all WhatsApp voice notes. So, yes, they can't respond to me anyway because they've sent out a 30-second voice note and I respond to that, simply giving an opinion, agreeing or disagreeing, or maybe adding additional commentary around it. That's the purpose. When it comes to a caller, often enough a caller makes a point and I would support or argue against it and they get a chance to say something else and we move on unless we're out of time. And believe me, the issues of time constraints in a talk show on a drive time format is very different, for example, to say what Kathy does on her show, where it's a long form conversation. But to respond to your point, what you've heard all that we played so far this afternoon are actual voice notes, so they would never be able to respond anyway. It's me responding to their voice note. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Well, what about response as far as the ANC is concerned? Lots of conversation. You know that. We've touched on the issue of the ANC in KZN. Well, what about the ANC in Gauteng? As you may be aware, Panyaza Lesufi, the ANC premier, was very critical of where his party fits in terms of we've lost the election. Made that point, right? And imagine what happens if we don't get our act together. I'm paraphrasing, but the essence of that was that. Now, the ANC's PEC Lekgotla outcomes, as delivered by the ANC Gauteng Provincial Secretary TK Lizo, happened all today. So let's get some thoughts on that, right? First of all, a commentary, analysis from within the ANC on the ANC bleeding support in Gauteng.
The African National Congress in Gauteng held its Provincial Executive Committee Lekgotla on the 18th and the 19th of August in Boksburg, where various issues concerning the organization and broader geopolitical questions were reflected upon. At the center of this discussion was the necessity of rebuilding the organization in Gauteng province, guided by the results and the recent general elections and the inputs that have been made by the voters and the society broadly about the state and the future of the organization. The starting point of our deliberation was an acknowledgement of reality that the ANC is bleeding support in the Gauteng province. This loss of support is a result of many factors, both internally and externally.
Okay, and there's more. The next comment is about the PECs themselves resolving to prioritize the rebuilding of the ANC.
The PEC has resolved to prioritize rebuilding of the organization with specific focus on the basic unit of our branch. The organization will be implementing various mechanisms to facilitate recruitment in our communities, including impactful drives and recruitment campaigns. But we also recognize that while recruitment will ensure a quantitative improvement, there is also a need to prioritize quality aspects. In this regard, the PEC also resolves to prioritize political education in the organization at the branch, the regional and the provincial level. With regards to the latter, the preparations for the extended PEC meeting to conduct political education is underway. The organization recognizes such political education must be multidisciplinary and multisectoral in its orientation.
And there's more. You know that many believe that all political parties, if you lose grassroots, you lose so much. So if the strength of the ANC has been community, then how do they fix that up now?
The ANC in Gauteng recognized the community level activism is a key component in rebuilding the organization. This is a historical position of the ANC, which also affirms the importance of establishing of organs of mass power, and of the ANC members being active, particularly in these organs. These includes, but not limited to, churches, youth structures, community policing forums, township businesses, sports clubs, and other institutions. Our community participation in these institutions and an ANC that is close to the people and must necessitate being engaged in activism. Furthermore, we believe that the ANC can reclaim the hearts and the minds of the historical voters as well as winning the new voters.
Okay, and there's more. There's the important issue of the ANC PEC from Gauteng attempting to attract the all-important investors.
The Lekgotla welcomes the 14 billion investment in Gauteng by various companies. This reaffirms Gauteng as the economic hub of South Africa. Amongst these companies that invested in Gauteng is AXA with 6 billion, Vodacom with 3 billion, Citibank with 1.4 billion in the Vaal economic zone. The Lekgotla also received an update on the Limpopo train speed and Gauteng
between Gauteng and Limpopo. The Limpopo-Gauteng split is variably starting phase, while Gauteng government will spend 120 billion on Gauteng to Soweto and 4 ways, Mamelodi, Atteridgeville, Lenasia and Springs. The Lekgotla also welcomes the 1.1 billion from skills funds and 8 billion from UIF to train and reskill 500,000 unemployed residents in Gauteng.
So there we are. What do you make of the state of the ANC in Gauteng, and perhaps by extension, considering our earlier chat, what do you make of the state of the ANC in KZN, in particular those two provinces, right? And then perhaps solutions that you may, and I'm talking about you as an ANC supporter. So obviously there could be others listening. One, you may not be an ANC supporter, but if you're an ANC supporter, what for you would be the big issues to turn around for the ANC, considering what their state is and what needs to change as well. By the way, you know that you can join the National Pulse WhatsApp channel. To do that, just WhatsApp us 0614 104 107 and just message join channel. Vusani is looking for you, and he'll certainly add you ASAP. Right, let's get some further comments, and these are voice note comments.
Well, if there is such thing as voters' regret that is presenting itself, I don't think that voters are regretting that they have not voted for the MK party. Perhaps voters may instead regret not voting for the ANC, because after the elections, the ANC has presented itself to be the more mature party in how it's put together the GNU, while it's been chaotic there by the MK party. Even if I wanted to join, it would be difficult to, because SGs get fired, rehired. It's just, there's no structure there. So I don't think anyone is regretting not having voted for MK. Sure, Josh here in Pretoria.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, this SADC thing is nonsense. Waste of resources. It's time Africans now free themselves from these freedom fighters. It's time now, it's time. We fought against the colonialists. Now we must fight against these so-called freedom fighters, the liberators. We must liberate ourselves now. It's a second liberation for things to be okay. Lisa from Brixton.
Hi, Ashraf and the listeners. I won't tell who am I, but I was also elected to be a cheerleader of South African University in Portugal this year. So my boss didn't pay for me to go there to represent, as I was good with my research from the academics, actually. Thank you.
Okay, there we are. So let's start with the boss story. It's an interesting one about the boss story, meaning that, were you sent something that was completely to Portugal, completely related to your work or not? Or is it something different? If you were, then you would think that either your boss should send you, but also I understand many small businesses, really, they don't have 20, 30,000 rand to give away. They also have their own budget issues. But the next step then would be to say, try and rally around and fundraise, be innovative as a company to send you away. So the fact that they didn't do that, I wonder what you feel about that. The other two, the freedom from SADC, I've never heard that before. Freedom from SADC, I'll leave it at that because, and the one about no regret is an interesting one. And maybe I'll just, I heard your point, but let's just re-emphasize that point. Whoever you voted for at the 2024 election, are you now suffering from this voters' regret to say, well, upon reflection, I should not have done what I did. I should have done something different. Do you think like that at all? Wherever you may be in the country, people of the Eastern Cape, Free State, Western Cape, I don't know. I'd certainly like to hear from you. Let me tell you as well, considering that chat we had with, or the sound we played from the ANC conference, or the Lekgotla, the provincial one from Gauteng, Mzwandile Mbeje, the SABC News reporter, political reporter that is, will talk to us about the ANC politics in Gauteng at 5:10. Do not miss it.
Here he comes. Hello, guys. You're so dramatic. Hey, bro, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit. The leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge. Wow, now that is extra.
Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy.
SAFM leading the conversation.
Okay, you know we spoke about this. By the way, before I get to that, two things that are important. You know that Tula Sizwe Simalani will join us as the anchor of the breakfast show coming up on the 2nd of September, so the first working day of September, right? I had a conversation with him about just that on Friday, and listen to that podcast. We also had what is called the fireside chat with Dr. Alan Busak. Do not miss that. Just go safm.co, go to the website, listen to the podcast. They're both really, really fascinating. Okay, let's then talk about just that. So last week, you may remember, I made mention of the issue of President Ramaphosa signing the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill, right? So when we chatted to Dr. Alan Busak, he spoke about the issue of the electricity, referred to that issue, and then gave further commentary on all of that, right? But linked to that, he spoke about the president's, that in fact what he said was President Zuma would make a better president even now than President Ramaphosa. Now, I'm just saying that because of what we're talking about next, because there's been opposition to the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill being now put into law. Hilton Trollope with me, Research Associate at the Energy Systems Research Group at the University of Cape Town. Hilton, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Thank you. What do you make? I mean, there's been a thumbs up, thumbs down with regard to the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill. So perhaps first things first for you, what do you make of it?
So there are positive, very strong positive aspects, and there are some problem areas. Like any piece of legislation, it's a compromise. And just to say that essentially where we've ended up in South Africa is because of essentially the emergency of the crisis in electricity supply at all levels. We've been forced into emergency kind of responses, which aren't ideal, but you can only move forward. And we'd got to a situation where, well, first I don't know how long we've got, but this has been going
5 minutes max, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, 5 minutes max. So just very quickly. 20 years ago, there was a strong move to reform the sector. It was really resisted by Eskom, which held on to the system and didn't allow anybody else on to provide electricity. Problem is they didn't provide electricity either. So we got this, load shedding, etc., etc. Under an emergency, the president orders that anybody be allowed to be connected to the system without a license, which is chaotic, but better than what was going on because no new electricity was being connected. So we now have huge amounts of private sector players ready to connect. And essentially what this bill does, the Act does, not because it's, excuse me, been signed into law, it makes for a more orderly management of allowing people other than Eskom generators or government procured generators to connect to the grid. And we have more than 20 gigawatts. That's equivalent to half the existing system lined up to connect. And this Act makes it orderly. So that's the positive side. The negative side, we haven't attended to the issues of equity, the poor, possibly environment, all of the public good aspects of the system. So essentially, under emergency conditions, we're saving the economy, we're saving the rich, and we're kind of saving the system, which is better than not saving it. So that's the positive side. On the negative side, we're not dealing with the severe energy poverty, electricity, the local distributors, municipalities, etc., that are bankrupt, non-payment, electricity theft, all the issues that don't have to do with the big users and the rich. And and Labour are going to look after, the traditional constituencies of public goods, and business is going to look after itself.
So therefore, the fact that there's been thumbs up, thumbs down, not just from you, but from others as well.
Yeah.
How are they aligned? Is a thumbs up? Can you draw a clear line between those who are supportive of the bill being signed into law and those who are not?
So certainly on the one camp is big business, and they're saying go for it because they need electricity, and they know Eskom with the management capacity, etc., and also the state of finances in Eskom. They aren't in a situation to build new power or extend the grid. They don't have the money. And by the way, Eskom's been doing very well with their management turnaround, but still, they're 400 million in debt. 400 billion in debt. They can't even cover their interest payments. So that boat has sailed. So we need the private sector to come in and rescue, and they're coming in, but the private sector is going to rescue itself first, and that's not bad. It's going to rescue business. So they're all in one corner with the DA strongly behind them. On the other side is organized labor, and then the representatives of civil society, the poor, the marginalized, which in South Africa is not just a small little group. We've got 40% unemployment and a 40% poverty rate. So there's also a big group on the other side saying, okay, business, you're saving yourself and whatever, but what about us? And they're scared now that we're going to go ahead with the old attitude to economic growth, etc., and not look after the poor. And the environment is also a big worry. Although, as it turns out, because renewables now are cheaper than any other thing to add to the grid, people aren't really adding coal or gas or whatever. The private sector's just climbing on with renewables, which are good for the environment. But that's just by the by, and, well, that's fine.
Okay, so now all things considered, you're given the thumbs up and the thumbs down. I understand that the reality is that bill has been signed into law. So what effect, so that's the reality. So what effect now will that have in terms of what happens nationally, in terms of energy and Eskom, you refer to, but certainly, and how it impacts on all of us?
So practically what's going to happen is the transmission grid, I like to describe that as the highways of the electricity grid around the country. Not all the little roads that go to the houses, but the highways that carry the big traffic. The national transmission grid is part of Eskom. It used to be a division. It's now being turned into a separate company with its own board. And this Act provides for a transmission system operator to be established within 5 years out of that company. And that transmission system operator will be obliged, in terms of legislation, to treat all generators equally. So Eskom will have a big coal-fired power station, and I'll build a big PV farm, and then we both go to the transmission system operator every day. We say, hi, we're selling power for this amount of money, and the transmission system operator, it's called dispatching, dispatches the least cost. So because now everybody can go onto the grid, people will invest, and there are huge amounts. So there will be enough electricity, firstly, for the big users, etc. There's some caveats. And because there's competition, price will go down. So that is going to happen. At the distribution level, this is where the problems hit. If you're running a bankrupt municipality and you're trying to buy electricity from the transmission system operator, at the moment, for good or for bad, Eskom will supply you with power. You will pass it on to your badly serviced customers, but they'll get some power, even though they're illegally connected and not paying. You won't pay Eskom, but at least everybody will have money. I mean, we'll have power. Well, not enough, but, the system, as rickety as it is, going forward, that's not going to be as easy. There are going to be big problems there about this transmission system operator has to be, it doesn't just have money from nowhere like Eskom being bailed out all the time. So the crunch is coming with holding all these bankrupt municipalities and distributors to account, and we've got a lot of work to do to sort that out.
And that's why
the likes of that's why Dr. Busak's saying we're heading for problems for the poor, because he's always represented that constituency.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. Hilton, appreciate your analysis, and I'm sure people listening will be supportive, as many will be around the nation. But others will say, no, don't agree. Well, that's exactly why we have this platform. Hilton Trollop, thanks for your time. Research Associate at the Energy Systems Research Group at UCT. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Utsila.
Thanks, Ashraf. In the headlines, 9 suspects have been arrested by police in the northwest after they were found looting from shops in an informal settlement outside Potchefstroom. This follows a protest in the area where residents of Ikageng and surrounds have earlier barricaded the N12 and other internal roads with burning tires and other objects. The N1 near the Glen off-ramp, about 20 kilometers outside Bloemfontein, has been closed to traffic due to failed fires. Police spokesperson Lorraine Earl says traffic is being redirected to the R30 Brandfort Road. And the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court has denied bail to Pastor Paseka Mboro Mutwening and his bodyguard. Mboro's son, Revival Mutwening, has however been released on warning with conditions. Details at 5 o'clock with Greg House.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Sandton has a crash before Greyston Drive. The N12 eastbound in Germiston is queuing towards Craft Road exit. And Main Reef Road in Crown has a crash reported at Church Street. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a truck crash after Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. And the N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle before the Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The N7 Checks Havel Drive southbound is queuing towards Voortrekker Road, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Jeptiaga Avenue. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Chima, you've got what? Transfer news.
Yeah,
football transfer, cricket. Nobody talks about cricket transfers, is it? Okay, football transfer.
Yeah, it's football transfer, and TS Galaxy have announced the signing of Owethu Khumalo from Marumo Gallants to further strengthen their squad ahead of the new season. Khumalo is the 10th addition for the Rockets, and the 22-year-old rose from the Gauteng Development League with Randburg Under-19 before joining Maraka Swallows, and has been doing well in the DStv Diski Challenge. Elsewhere, Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou says that he has noticed a more motivated James Maddison in training following the disappointment of being left out of England's Euro 2024 squad. Maddison was left out of the England squad after struggling for fitness and form during the second half of the last campaign. Now, Spurs travelled to Maddison's former club, Leicester, and the 27-year-old says that he's eager to impress at the King Power Stadium. Then in cricket, Bangladesh began a 2-test series in Pakistan this week, with their preparations severely hampered by the political turmoil that has racked the country. Now, unrest that led to the overthrow of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina kept the team's foreign coaches indoors, strictly following advisories from the embassies, while mass protests stopped the team from assembling for practice sessions. The makeup of the Bangladesh Cricket Board is also up in the air after President Nazmul Hassan fled the country country due to his association with Hasina. Cricket and politics go hand in hand in Bangladesh, if you didn't know. But ace all-rounder Shakib Al Hassan, who's a member of the now dissolved parliament for Hasina's party, is being allowed to feature in the Pakistan series by the interim government. Then in rugby, All Blacks coach Scott Robinson has hailed Rassie Erasmus for taking an innovative approach during the Rugby Championship ahead of the 2-test mini-series against the Springboks in South Africa. The Springboks currently sit top of the Rugby Championship after back-to-back bonus point victories over the Wallabies in Brisbane and Perth, and this has set the Boks up nicely for a rematch of the 2023 Rugby World Cup final when the All Blacks face the world champions on the 31st of August at Ellis Park before a 7th of September duel in Cape Town. In marathon news, South African long-distance runner Lebogang Palula has reflected on her remarkable 2-decade journey in the sport and how it provided for her and her family. She's currently 41 years old. Through her athletics career, she has achieved milestones many only dream of, including purchasing a house and a car with the earnings from her races. Although she didn't pursue a traditional career after completing her matric, she says that she will continue running for as long as her legs allow.
What I can say now, I never worked for my entire life, but I achieved more than people who are working. I bought my house cash, not in Soweto, in the biggest suburb, and I bought my car cash. I'm able to take my son to school, better school, not the school that I went to, better school, because I want better future for my son, and he's doing great. He's doing great compared to the mother. He's doing great. So the achievement that I've got, it's a lot, Charles. It's a lot. Through running, through spa, through boxer, it's a lot. And I want to thank them, even now, especially boxer. I need to thank them because they're still taking care of us, even though we are veterans. We still get paid. Some of the club, they don't pay the veterans according it works.
Ashraf, I think we need to consider distance running as a career.
You mean, too late? Don't say we. You can speak for yourself. I've often said, and maybe I'll repeat this because it's important. And people say, Ashraf, what's it like hosting a talk show, a 3-hour current affairs-driven talk show? Then I say it's like running a marathon every single day.
So you'd rather do it behind the mic?
No, I'm running a marathon. This is a mental marathon, 3 hours.
I
I've done my
see.
job. You can't do more than that. I mean, that's it every day. Which marathon runner you know does a marathon every single day? Can you think of anybody? Not even the Comrades Marathon runner does it every day, but I do it every day. Or other talk shows, just to be fair. Anyway, right, more sport. Maybe you can do it. More
In the
sport
next hour.
in an hour, yeah.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Tugs have a great plan to illustrate that they are not just intelligent students in class, but on the field of play as well. Meanwhile, the Zuma-based outfit want nothing except for 3 points to run away from the unpleasant zone. The capital city confronts eThekwini. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Lindelani Ladies FC on Sunday 25 August at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, by the way, we can talk about the ANC coming up after 5 o'clock. Don't miss that, right? Paswane Mpatlele is with me, Senior Account Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Paswane, it's always good chatting to you. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners.
Good indeed, right? I understand you've got, besides the local and global markets, you've got news about Absa Bank, and not just the fact that there's a change of leadership, but let's talk about the interim results.
Yeah. Absa, there's the seventh CEO that's coming in under 7 years, just reflecting on that leadership crisis that continues to be there for the bank. But just zooming into their financials, the group profitability has declined by 5%, with the likes of South Africa's profitability declined as per headline earnings per share down by 7%. And this is back of those challenging economic environments we've experienced in South Africa, where the high interest rates has caused a weaker consumer spending, confidence, and the economic uncertainty has just kept consumers doing less transactions. We see their revenue was just up 3% for the bank. They were helped by that net interest income up 7% because of the high interest rate environment. But when you look at the non-interest income, it was down by 2%, and the expenses up 8%, including that cost to income metrics for them. And but there's still some positive that comes from these results, as we see that their credit loss ratio is flat. They've increased their loan book by 5% along with deposits. However, at the end of the day, their performance was not great. They managed to keep their dividends flat, and at the back of that, the results, the stock still rallied by 4%, and I guess it's at the back of those second half expectations being better. When we look at the general market, Ashraf, we're looking at a local market that continues to record highs, as the positive trend from last week continues to go on its momentum. There's still improvement in risk sentiment as the US recession has eased, and investors are pricing in rate cuts, therefore indicative of a soft landing that is going to come up, as the borrowing and investing, which is set to improve going forward. The rand continues to enjoy the 9 straight gains, as we see it against the dollar is at 17.80, reflecting the weakness in the dollar that is continuous as it's been shorted by investors. Meanwhile, the likes of oil prices remain under pressure due to the demand concerns and Middle East conflict risks, as we see it trading under $80 at $79.10 a barrel, while the likes of gold prices declined by 0.5% at $2,495 an ounce. However, they hit an all-time high of above $2,500, reflecting on those rate cuts. Platinum is trading at $950 an ounce. Going forward, investors are going to be looking at the Jackson Hole Symposium and the Fed meetings to determine clarity of interest rate cuts. And we look at general equities, they're trading slightly positive. The US all up in the green, led by Dow up 0.3. The Europe FTSE and DAX up 0.5, CAC up 0.8. Locally, we are up 1.2%, supported by our resources up 2%. Financials up 1.5, industrials up 0.9. Looking at the currency, relatively strong. As I said, the rand is at 17 rand 80 cents. Rand against the euro is at 1967, and rand against the pound 23 rand 10 cents.
Okay, let's see that. Thanks for that, Paswana and Patlele. We'll have another update from the markets coming up in just under an hour. Let's get to the call. Steve in Centurion, right? Steve, what's your point? Steve, hi. Steve, your line's horrible. I'm trying to hear you. You know what? I'm not hearing you. Maybe can you call back? I'll get Keys to try and take you immediately. Yeah. All right. I'll get Keys to connect with you immediately. We just maybe have you on a bad line. Okay. Let's get to some further voice notes as well, and there's other callers who have some views that they wish to express. Right.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and the brilliant team behind the scenes. Love Momaduku is a ZANU-PF extension or a project. There's nothing which you can come out tangible from that guy. That interview is just a wasting of time. Our judiciary is captured by the executive. We even know the selection of those judges and the panel. So there's nothing which can come out from the courts which can favor opposition or a fair ruling from the court. There won't be. We all know that. And Maduku himself was part of the political actors dialogue or Pollard. They were getting cars from ZANU-PF, going to Mnangagwa's farm to feed fish. So what do you expect from that analyst?
Hi, Ashraf. It's anonymous in Limpopo. Ashraf, don't bring that project of ZANU-PF there and start talking something he doesn't know. That guy is a spy. He only needs money. That one is a pure ZANU-PF project. He's a useless guy. He's a professor for nothing. He doesn't stand for the people of Zimbabwe. Don't bring that person there to talk nonsense there, man.
Afternoon, Ashraf. You're speaking to Saina Jenkins, also from Polokwane. You know what, my brother, EFF and the MK, they planned this move when the ANC and DA went into the coalition GNU. So it's nothing surprising to see Floyd moving from EFF to MK. And it seems like Floyd, in near future, is going to come back, as the president of EFF stated that anytime if Floyd feels to come back, he can come back. So you can see that they are playing us, those people. Thank you, Ashraf.
Well, there you are. Okay, about the Floyd one, I mean, that's what they said. That's like you selling your best player and say, well, the door is always open for a return, and sometimes they come back, and they come back many years later, and the position has changed. You can't hold on to that. As far as the guest from Zimbabwe, I mean, we've heard many people very angry, but let me say this much: you can't say that we can't have people that you disagree with. The fact is, we're going to have people that you're going to disagree with and you're going to agree with at different times. In fact, that's why if you listen to this show over a period, you will find different voices expressing their comments on effectively the same issue.
Hey Mike, congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks, Andile. Are you preparing for it?
Yes, but not just for myself.
For you and?
For me and my employees.
Oh.
Since we moved to Old Mutual Corporate, their retirement funds have not only been safe and secure, but gaining competitive returns through exposure to diverse investment markets.
Impressive.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
A brilliant silver for Johan van Dijk.
The plan was to win a medal. That was the goal. So I'm just so grateful and thankful that everything went as it should. For me, it's to be an inspiration to all the younger girls in South Africa. There's so much power and passion. I think our South African women really have a lot of resilience. For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy.
SA Women Struggles Journal. Hashtag Women's Month. Celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development. SAFM celebrates the power, resilience and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month, and we're honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces and our homes. Join SAFM in recognizing the achievements, strengths and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAFM, leading the Women's Month conversation. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, one of the things we certainly want to emphasize is the importance of talking about technology and innovation, and we do that at least once a week on the slot around 10 to 5. So listen out for that regularly if you're into tech and innovation. And with that in mind, I think what we're going to talk about now is just so significant because Wabu Majabu is with me, Executive for Strategy and Business Operations at, is it Africa Data Center, yeah?
Africa Data
Center. Okay,
Center.
got that, because I saw the ad there. So Africa Data Center. Now, good chatting to you. Hi.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, we're talking to you, I understand, ahead of an event that I see the date and I'm saying I should be there. So you better tell us what's it about.
You definitely should be there. We Tech Africa, Women in Tech Africa. So we have a telecoms and data center summit that is happening on the 27th of August. And what this is a marketplace. So you've got your tech startups, you've got your corporates, and you also have your public sector, state-owned entities. So anything around connectivity, storage, cloud providers, it's a melting pot for that interaction.
So it's not, so to get it right, how much of it is it an expo where you see new products but you can't buy, you just learn, or is it actual selling, like you see, you buy, you sell, you trade as per the marketplace you suggested?
Absolutely no expo. So the purpose of the summit is to establish the networks, because we know that with small, medium tech startups, the chances of failure in the first 2 years are high. So what we've seen in terms of success stories is where you have an incubator, be it a corporate, be it a state-owned entity, where we are saying you can use your enterprise supply development funds and then use that to self-disrupt. And that's how you innovate going forward. So we've got a panel of speakers, and these are executives and leaders that are saying we are looking for tech startups, women-led, to be able to take innovative solutions to the market.
So when you find these women-led tech startups, right? What then is the process? What happens next?
All right. So number one, you become part of the community, which is We Tech Africa, WI Tech Africa, Women in Tech. Number two, you then become part of the database. So every time an enterprise is looking for a supplier that is women-led, that is innovative in the tech space, you have a collective place to find them. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is we then establish those networks, and we are able to introduce you to potential incubator programs. So the sponsors for the event, we have the Innovator Trust, we have CCOM, we have Telecel, because they're saying there just aren't enough women-led tech startups to innovate. So your question, what happens next? I have a budget this year for enterprise supply development, and I want to innovate and I want to stay competitive. I then look at, depending whether or not I'm a public entity or a private entity, I look at my year 2 goals and I start sandboxing those now with those ESD funds. Whatever works in terms of viability of a product, I can take to market in the next financial year. Whatever doesn't, it still takes my compliance checkbox from a ESD perspective.
Okay, to ensure that you grow the industry. So, do you agree that in terms of the people you mentioned and the sponsors, that there is a massive need for them to invest in the industry, for them to grow as well?
It is, absolutely. And so it serves both sides, because what we hear a lot is access to markets. And so We Tech Africa is a virtual platform. The event itself is the first event of many that will happen annually. But what it does is it opens up the conversation to outside of the borders of the country, because you are interacting through the internet. So immediately geography is no longer a barrier.
Absolutely not. Let's talk then. So there's also a call out for people to attend, right?
Of course.
Okay, so who should attend, and are there restrictions, are there barriers to entry to attend? Which is a nice way of saying, what does it cost? Yeah.
Of course. So we can check on our social media pages, We Tech, WI Tech Africa, Women in Tech. And so let me start with the sponsorship packages. It ranges from a bronze, about 25,000, to a platinum, which is about 250,000. So let me first start with the corporate, why you should attend. If you're looking to innovate, if you're looking to self-disrupt, and we've seen a lot of success stories. I can mention a couple, APSA, Telcom, where they've incubated and then taken certain products to market. So if you then as a corporate purchase a ticket or purchase a sponsorship package, you then take your tech entrepreneurs that you're already incubating to then go and network with a bigger pool of experts, developers to then be able to scale. Because even if you're a South African business, nobody says no to being global, right? And so we are then saying you can facilitate the conversation there. If you are a tech startup, you want to attend, and an individual ticket is about 2,500 Rand just for an individual. And so what we found is a lot of the tech startups will ask, what do I do? What's the first step? First step is the networks. The networks are there. If you're struggling with a business case, trying to validate whether or not your product, your idea makes sense, there's assistance there.
And then they would, you mean on the platform, you'd have to share what it is you do, and they'll give you advice in the moment live. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the platform itself facilitates the connections. And then once you're paired with, let's say, for example, a leader and an innovator and an experienced person in that space, you can then, assess viability. You can also get access to resources. You can get access to advice on funding. But most importantly, so what people struggle with, which we have seen, is I don't know how to articulate a community problem. You know the community problem, and so I think the barrier then is I suddenly need to be an expert in tech to be able to solve that problem. And we're saying you don't. As long as you can identify the problem and you know which experts to speak to in the room. And remember, I've mentioned from every sector of the economy that will be there, and as well as, cloud providers, how to upskill, how to get into the space. So as an individual, those are the opportunities. And then as a corporate, like I said, it's sponsor a group of women, tech startups, and there's knowledge sharing, there's networking, there's access to resources and access to markets.
I spoke or moderated at a Brand SA event about 2 years ago, and I've repeated this often thereafter. One of the speakers who made the point from H&M, in fact, made the point that she's Irish and lived in America, and the one thing that South Africa doesn't understand is just how incredibly innovative South Africa's youth are. She was like saying, you have no idea how talented your young people are. I mean, you concur with it?
100%. And so one of the founders of WeTech, Yandi, said there's an article where she says, so if you go to our youth, and if you go to our peri-rural and sometimes rural, those are communities that innovate for survival. And so it's second nature. That's the first thing. The second thing that I think we underestimate is the level of intellect. The ability, if you grow up in Soweto and you can alternate seamlessly between Sotho, Tswana, Tsonga, Xhosa, right? So your brain has that ability. So by the time you're 17, 18, the likelihood of then you being able to, adopt technology, etc., you have gained that muscle in terms of your intellect.
But are we doing that? You see, one thing is there's a switched on innovative sense amongst youth, but are we doing that to scale on a national level? Because I'm almost going to be critical and say we're probably not, because if it was, then we'd see us go sky high in terms of global competitiveness, and we know we're not.
No, we're definitely not. And so this is where language comes back into the conversation. We have to be able to program and code in our own languages. The intellect is there, which means you are able to grab or at least learn syntax of any coding language on any platform. And then in terms of that gap that you've identified, for the event, one of the sponsors, which is Connector, they have an upskilling program where you can select any one of the cloud providers and you start a learning journey that you can embark on from home.
Sounds very, very good. Our time's almost up. So I'm going to suggest, first of all, that so you're saying 2,500 a ticket for an individual, but you're still looking at potential sponsors,
100%.
corporate sponsors.
Yes. So corporate sponsors looking to innovate and disrupt from within, sponsorship, and you're also looking for access to global markets.
Okay.
Sponsorship towards you, and this is something that you don't need to budget for, right? We're looking at your ESD budget and we're saying use that, invest in sponsor tech startups to attend, and then as part of that disruptive environment, you can then self-disrupt.
I'll be shocked if someone doesn't want to attend and doesn't want to sponsor even now. I'd be absolutely shocked. So the challenge is there. You did say social media or website, and give us some details.
All right. Social media, We Tech Africa,
WI,
Women
right?
in Tech, WI Tech Africa. All the socials are there, and there's people responding to DMs as we speak. And then for any sponsorship details, please send an email to marketing@connecta.co.za. Connecta is spelled KONECTA.
Okay, and tell your social media team they should do two things. They should tag SAFM Radio now, and they should tag me, Ashraf Garda, now, and I will repost it.
Thank you so much.
Let's do that. Let's see what happens. I think, if we're going to build a champion nation, we need to be absolutely innovative and spot on. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ashraf.
Appreciate it. There. So that comes up next week, right? 27th of August, I understand it is, but our time's up, so appreciate you giving off your time. That's Wabu Majavu, the Executive for Strategy and Business Operations at the Africa Data Center. But this really ahead of a very big event coming up on the 27th of August in Johannesburg. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg Coase.
Thank you, Ashraf. Arrests over northwest looting in Russia continues. Offensive in eastern Ukraine. Good day to you. 9 suspects have been arrested by police after they were found looting from shops in an informal settlement outside Potchefstroom in the northwest. This follows a protest in the area where residents blocked the N12 and other roads with burning tyres and other objects. Police spokesperson Sabato Mahobone says they're concerned about children taking part in the protest.
We can also indicate that it has been noted with concern that despite a plea made to parents to take care and ensure that children are not used in criminal protests, the police spotted some children at Extension 11 putting barricades on the road and pelting vehicles with stones. We would like to indicate that criminality will not be condoned and that those who commit crime will be dealt with harshly.
The N1 near the Glen off-ramp, about 20 kilometres outside Bloemfontein in the Free State, has been closed to traffic due to veld fires. Police say traffic is being redirected to the R30 Brunfort Road. Motorists are advised to slow down and exercise caution as visibility has been reduced due to the smoke. Veld fires in some parts of the Free State have ravaged hundreds of thousands of hectares of land in the recent weeks. The Palm Ridge Magistrates Court has denied bail to Pastor Paseka Mboro Motswaneng and his bodyguard. However, Mboro's son, Revival Motswaneng, has been released on warning with conditions. This after a video that went viral on social media showing the trio armed with pangas and a gun forcibly entering a primary school in Katlehong, east of Johannesburg. The men are facing charges including kidnapping and assault, among other charges. A police officer from George in the Western Cape has been released on 5,000 rand bail after he allegedly knocked over and killed a 4-year-old child and fled the scene. Another minor aged 3 was injured in the incident, which took place on the busy Nelson Mandela Boulevard. IPID arrested the officer last week. He faces 7 charges, including culpable homicide, attempted murder, and defeating the ends of justice. It's alleged that the suspect knocked the children over and failed to stop. The officer is also alleged to have failed to report the incident. His next appearance is in the Themba-Lethu Regional Court on the 3rd of next month. Russian forces are continuing their advances in the east of Ukraine, despite Kyiv's offensive in the Kursk region of Russia. The BBC's Nikki Caldwell has the latest.
The Pokrovsk front remains the area with the most intense fighting in eastern Ukraine, and the Russian army has been steadily inching towards the city. Pokrovsk lies at the crossroads of a major route that's used to supply Ukrainian towns and troops on the eastern front. The fall of the city would be a major loss. The local authorities have been telling people to evacuate for the past week, but this order is more urgent. The head of the local administration says he believes they have only a week or two to get as many people out as possible.
Top stories that 9 suspects have been arrested by police after they were found looting from shops in an informal settlement outside Potchefstroom in the Northwest Province. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goos.
In your sports this hour, France under-21 coach Thierry Henry has stepped down from his role a year before his contract is due to end, and the West Indies rest all-rounders Andre Russell and Jason Holder for their upcoming 3-match T20 series against South Africa. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange. The N12 eastbound in Germiston has a stationary vehicle before the Craft Road exit. Main Reef Road in Crown has a crash at Church Street reported, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a stationary truck reported after Rigel Avenue exit. In KZN, the N2 northbound and earlier stationary truck at Spaghetti Junction has been cleared. The M7 is queuing at the N2 highway. The N3 eastbound has a truck crash reported after the Pavilion Shopping Centre exit, and the N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle before the Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. Then there's the R102 southbound, which is slow moving near Old North Coast Road. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road. The N2 outbound has a crash reported at Mowbray Main Road. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road, and the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat it? From inside his own half! Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. Tugs have a great plan to illustrate that they are not just intelligent students in class, but on the field of play as well. Meanwhile, the Zuma-based outfit want nothing except for 3 points to run away from the unpleasant zone. The capital city confronts eThekwini. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Lindelani Ladies FC on Sunday 25 August at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
The third of 3 hours of the National Pulse. Welcome to the show. If you've joined in late, just remember, well, ideally get in early, but we have podcasts of just about most of the interviews we've done already, so you can listen to that, at your leisure whenever you get home or whatever else you do. And also, if you want sort of links and alerts to our show daily, besides following us on social media, just join the National Pulse on our new WhatsApp channel, which is 0614 104 107, the same number of our WhatsApp group. Just add to channel. So 0614 104 107, message add to channel, then Busani knows exactly what he has to do. You can comment on some of the issues we've covered today, including the ANC trying to regain lost ground and seriously lost ground in KZN, the ANC regaining or trying to regain lost ground in Gauteng, and then the issue that we raised earlier about what for you would be the absolute solution in the Middle East, and particularly with Israel and the Palestinians. One state, two state, but what is it for you that gives you what I'd call a just, lasting solution? That means it has to be just, and it has to have a sense of peace that will last. What for you would get just that. Then there are many other comments. People are talking about the US election, SADC, lots of comments about just the worthiness or the unworthiness of SADC, and a conversation around Czech that I just had a chat with earlier on. If you want to comment on that, but anything else, you know that. The show is the National Pulse. What for you moves the National Pulse today? You're a key driver of that, by the way. Okay, let's get into ANC's Gauteng politics. So the ANC in Gauteng concluded its Provincial Executive Committee Lekgotla earlier on and briefed the media on the outcomes of the Lekgotla. So let's do this. Let me first bring in Mzwandile Mbeje, who's the SABC News political editor. Good chatting to you as always. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. A very good afternoon to you and the listeners.
Thank you. I always get a sense, and I've probably told you this, you know more than anybody else who's moving, who's not moving in the higher echelons of party politics, particularly with regard to the ANC. So with that in mind, let's do this. I want to get your thoughts on where the ANC Gauteng is headed, but we'll play some clips that we had earlier on, right? First of all, the Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, making the point about that they actually lost the election.
Comrades, we lost elections. We must accept. We can redefine that loss in various ways, a strategic retreat, a strategic defeat. In reality, defeat is defeat. And we must not cry at the wrong funeral. We must cry at the right funeral, which is that we lost power.
I think that's powerful. That's powerful. It's actually damning in terms of his analysis of the ANC, and therefore we often get people being critical. It's like, you know what? Why are you so critical about the ANC? The fact is, here's someone who's the premier of the ANC in Gauteng, the most significant province economically of the entire country, saying, "Don't cry at the wrong funeral," and we've lost, and that's it, right? Okay. He also made the point about the importance of a mix, call it a mix masala, but in terms of a generational mix.
These things are what is abontanga se abochomi generation yethu siphethela. It's wrong because maskwatelana ngento zethu we collapse a movement. So the importance of generational mix has been reaffirmed by the departure of Deputy President of the EFF.
Okay, so that's true. I mean, we could play more, but I'll just pause. Let's then bring in Mzwandile Mbeje. So first, let's talk about that comment in particular about he gave the analogy that we lost and don't cry at the wrong funeral. What do you make of that statement by a sitting premier of the Gauteng province?
You know, Ashraf, this is one of the most profound admissions by a senior leader, obviously, within the Gauteng province. Because one of the things that has been very difficult for the ANC to regain lost ground in many areas where it's been having challenges is that instead of getting to the problem, you try and find a scapegoat. So now that the chairperson of the ANC, I mean, he was speaking in his capacity as chairperson, but you are quite correct, he's also the premier, he basically realizes, you know, a few days ago, when he was giving a press briefing just to update on the Lekgotla, he basically said, Ashraf, as the ANC, we must adapt or die. So what does that tell you? It is basically saying we need to acknowledge the reality on the ground. We can't always, when we face difficulty, and then go to the scapegoats. But here, for me, now that he's out there, he's accepting that, so they lost the election. What is it that you do in order to correct that? That is the challenge. Once you know where you are, how do you get yourself out of that situation? That is, for me, is what I'm looking at. But I see the admission perhaps as the first step of realization by the ANC that in this, if they continue in this manner, they will be wiped off completely in the future.
And interesting, I mean, in that case there, although he, as you said, he's speaking as the chairperson of the Gauteng region ANC, I mean, that comment, in fact, is ditto for the country, maybe even more so for the ANC national, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it is. I mean, it's. The fact that the ANC dipped below 50, not even below 50, just went straight to 40%, shedding 17%. At a one go. What if a trend of that nature continued? You know, when we're doing our analysis before, because I think the highest point in terms of the ANC National was during President Begi's time, where he achieved 69.69%. And then from there, we know what happened in Polokwane, and then the drop started. But obviously, in 2009, it was still huge because former President Zuma achieved 66%. But then, in the year 2014, the ANC went down again to 62%. In the year 2019, it went down again to 57%. So as we were extrapolating, looking at all those numbers, so the best bet would be maybe another 5%, perhaps with the Zuma factor, maybe let's say 10%. But what we did not anticipate, Ashraf, was that the ANC was going to lose a whopping 17%. So then, if you are not correcting that which is leading you to lose, what stops you from getting to 30% in the next election? I think that's why, for me, Panyaza's admission is quite important. But then, what do you do after that admission? Admitting alone doesn't really help.
So let me just pause you just for the moment on that, because I want to ask you what happens next. But just staying with the admission part. So does the admission reflect leadership, or is leadership best reflected by not admitting defeat? Because in this case, the admission admits defeat. So which one shows more leadership?
I think admitting defeat, for me, shows more leadership, because and I think that's why with all the weaknesses in the ANC, I think one of the things that actually became a huge positive, Ashraf, and I think for you and all of us in the country, we had never imagined how a liberation movement would react if it lost election. So we looked elsewhere and then thought, well, it may not be that easy. But after losing election, they were so mature. They became an adult in the room. In fact, they were the ones who then held the country together, so which showed maturity. So the fact that Panyaza and the leadership, they are acknowledging this, I think for me it's actually good, because it then does tell you that they acknowledge that what they do, sometimes South Africans will disagree with them. And the way for South Africans to disagree is that. So it's pointless you lose election and then you are in denial. Because what are you going to do? If you're in denial, then you'll try to find means to show that you did not lose when you have lost. And that's where the trouble starts. I think our democracy is maturing, but of course, as the governing party, the ANC, now together with others, so it will need to reflect seriously and do something about it.
Okay, so now let's talk about what happens next. So one thing is admitting it, but the other is, and we chatted earlier on the show about the defeats in KZN, where just damning losses in terms of numbers, right? So what then happens next with the ANC? I mean, based upon what came out of today's Lekgotla.
One of the things that I've been saying, particularly about the parties that maybe have shared support, I think South Africans are know exactly what they want. I mean, it does. You can speak to me, Ashraf, in the most beautiful words, trying to convince me that you are the most handsome man around. South Africans will be able to see, is he the one? So why am I saying that? The ANC, the primary objective of its existence is to serve the people of this country. That is why this party was called the Parliament of the People. So if then, as a country, you feel you are not served the way that Parliament is supposed to serve you, you will have issues. I mean, let's take simple examples. I mean, I haven't caucused this with you, but I can tell you, you will probably agree with me. Where you stay, there probably are robots that are dysfunctional and there's been for quite some time. If not the case, there are street lights that are not working and it's been for some time. If not, there are potholes that have been for some time. And that thing is replicated just about everywhere. People ask questions. what about these people that were sent to go and serve? Remember, people will not differentiate between local government and national government. They know there's a government that is in power that can intervene if things are not going well. So for the ANC to start really reclaiming support and trust from the people, it's very simple. I know there are many other factors, but this is the first factor that I would suggest to them. Do serve the people. What does that mean? Just do that which is right. That's all.
Well, I'll tell you what, I want to ask you about the Helen Zille issues, or her commentary or comments, and whether that's had an impact on ANC's internal, Lekgotlas at provincial and national level, which we'll do that right after this.
In August, we celebrate our amazing women farmers who nourish and clothe our nation.
Farmers and researchers and academia can work closely.
Catch Living Land on Sundays at 11 a.m. on SABC2.
We can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Our Tugs have a great plan to illustrate that they are not just intelligent students in class, but on the field of play as well. Meanwhile, the Zuma-based outfit want nothing except for 3 points to run away from the unpleasant zone. The capital city confronts eThekwini. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game, University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Lindelani Ladies FC on Sunday 25 August at 11 a.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM.
Continuing to chat to Mzwandile Mbeje. We'll take your calls as well and WhatsApp comments in a few moments' time. But let's continue talking about the ANC, ANC National, ANC Provincial, ANC Gauteng, ANC KZN. I mean, where do we start? Where do we stop, right? So I want to start or restart again, Mzwandile, regarding Helen Zille's comments about it not being a government of national unity. That's one. In fact, Alan Busak, who I chatted to on Friday, and people need to listen to that podcast, made it very clear that he said, I always felt that if the ANC gets into a he didn't use the word coalition, into some sort of partnership with the DA will be the senior partner. Now, what has been the thoughts from ANC insiders regarding Zille's comments? Because I would think that would sting the ANC.
You know, I think the ANC has really been it's been very, I would say, clever in how they crafted this new government after losing power. They could have chosen to go the simple coalition route, which, I mean, has no issue, which, I mean, everyone knows about. They could have chosen the minority government issue, where they've just cobbled together the minority government parties and then the form government. And obviously, they could have gone for the grand coalition, just the two of them with the DA. But I think what the ANC wanted to do, they knew that whichever option they took, somehow there was going to be some criticism of sorts, one way or the other. And then they decided to say, we will just invite everyone, so that whoever comes in, it's good, we work with. The one who's not coming in, it's fine, it's his or her choice. So then they crafted it as the government of national unity, which basically, aspirationally, they want to work with everyone. So is everyone part of it? Not necessarily. So, but for them, it works, because even if the DA were to decide to walk out tomorrow, Ashraf, already the minority government will stand. I mean, look at those numbers that form part of that government. It will stand. So, which means as a minority government, it will still stand. And also, what would happen is that the parties like EFF and even MK, which are outside, can easily get in. So, whichever way other parties decide to walk, the ANC somehow remains the nucleus of what is happening. I think that was the strategy from the ANC, and then they gave it a name, GNU. Whether in its true sense of the word GNU is the right word, it's something else. But strategically, they were able to then drive their own agenda through involving everyone. Whoever is inside, everyone knows it's because it's them who don't want to be in.
Okay, lastly, and I find myself using this often when we wrap up a conversation because it's just that significant. In this case here, what sign would you be looking out for first that will determine where the ANC goes next?
I think for me, the ANC right now, I would say, in inverted commas, in terms of the government that's running, it's very comfortable. Because I can tell you, at least not in the next 2.5 years, is there a chance of it collapsing. Obviously, we don't know the dynamics towards 2027, where the ANC conference will sit, because a whole lot of things can change. But in the immediate future, Ashraf, I can tell you, the ANC will be very comfortable with how things are panning out. As I've said, whoever decides to walk out now, they will still be able to hold. So the reactions within the ANC, I don't think they'll be so significant to rock the boat. Obviously, it will be those views and ideas which will time and again come out, but the essence of who they are currently is still going to hold. So, at the moment, the ANC would want to be seen to be working for the entire country, and they want to project themselves as the adult in the room, something which I think they successfully did during the negotiation phase. They did not become arrogant, despite that they were still the largest party, so they invited everyone. So going forward, they will still want to be seen as an adult in the room, as the leader. So whoever else is speaking, it will also be a credit to them to say, we did not say come to serve with us, to stifle you. We wanted to enhance this voice. Every voice matters.
Okay, and that's where we will lead. Appreciate you giving up your time. Lots to consider from what Mzondile Mbeje has said. So really appreciate that. SABC News political editor. But now what about you, the listener, you the audience? I often talk about, when we talk about what moves the national pulse, I will also say that you play a huge role in driving that agenda just by your thoughts, because we feed off those thoughts. We feed off what you think, as you perhaps feed off what we think, and certainly what the analysts and the important decision makers in the country have their views. So we all come together in formulating whatever it is the national pulse. Let's get your thoughts as well in voice notes. In fact, let's do this. We're going to go to Impo first in Randfontein. Impo, welcome to the show. What's your point?
No, I think the point, the HABC analyst has made a very good point, that maturity also means when you fight for a democratic government, it doesn't mean you're going to win every time. So for the fact that you are able to concede that, yes, we've lost, that's maturity enough. There's no blood after the May elections. Here we are, we still are commenting about progress at the moment. So the terminology that is saying that there was a mature body in the room to say, we concede, we take the process forward.
And I think it's a good point that you've amplified, and we do need to remember that I probably said that just after the election, whatever you may have thought about the ANC, voted for them or did not vote for them, the one thing we can say that the way they stepped out as being the majority party is, well, it's the gold standard. It's the way parties should do it, and not just talk about rip-offs and all that sorts of things. So, Impo, thanks for that call. Let's get to Harry Smith now. It's a call on the line. Hi, what's your point?
Yes, how's it, man?
Good indeed. Go ahead.
But you know this ANC.
Yeah.
They made a mistake. They should have used the strategy. By the time we were going to the elections, I was thinking if they removed President Ramaphosa and they put somebody else there. I'm telling you, maybe ANC it should have won by big margin. The thing is, the problem that we have right now, we don't support the organization. We support the individuals. And,
so who would be that one person? I mean, because that's why your answer is important. Who would be that one person that would have allowed the ANC to have won by a big margin instead of Cyril Ramaphosa?
And there is the vice president or anybody there. Because remember what happened as well. After Ramaphosa, President Ramaphosa take Zuma to jail. That's when the people started to hate ANC. And remember, people like Isma Khashule, what happened with the guy? So that's when people started hating ANC.
Okay, I hear you.
If it was not those people, I think maybe ANC. But still, we're gonna do better next time. No problem.
No problem. I don't know. Okay, I mean the fact is not everybody hated the ANC for that. In fact, 40% of the people that voted, in fact, supported the ANC, and then many others who are part of the GNU effectively reflects a sense of commitment to working together, even though they are with different political parties. But the question is this: seriously, I think even within ANC quarters, they've been hard-pressed to find a substitute president. I mean, seriously. So I'll put this out to you. If not Ramaphosa, who would you have put before the election, and who would you put now to lead the ANC? It's hypothetical, I know, but I want to see what you come up with. I mean, seriously, where's the effective leader outside Cyril Ramaphosa as the leader of the African National Congress? 5:30, here's the news headlines.
Quick look at the headlines. Pastor Paseka Mboro Matswaneng and his bodyguard will remain in custody until next month after being denied bail. The N1 near the Glen off-ramp, about 20 kilometers outside Bloemfontein, has been reopened to traffic after it was closed due to veld fires. And 9 suspects have been arrested by police after they were allegedly found looting from shops at an informal settlement outside Potchefstroom in the northwest. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg queuing towards Crown Interchange. The N12 eastbound in Germiston has a stationary vehicle before the Craft Road exit. Main Reef Road in Crown has a crash at Church Street. The M1 northbound in Melrose slow moving near Colette Drive. The R24 eastbound in Bedfordview has a crash before Giluli's Interchange. In Pretoria, the N1 northbound slow moving towards Garsfontein Road exit. The N1 southbound has a stationary truck after Rigel Avenue exit. Eskom Patleli Drive northbound has delays towards Mabopani Highway, and Lavender Road southbound has delays towards Paul Kruger Street. In KZN, Chris Hani Road westbound queuing at the N2 highway. The N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle reported before Pavilion Shopping Centre exit, and the R102 southbound is slow moving near Old North Coast Road. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The M7 checks Havel Drive southbound slow moving towards the R300 highway. The N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavongo Road, and the N2 outbound is slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Tumi, we spoke about football transfers earlier, so what do we talk about now?
Well, we'll still start off with football, but this time around from France, under-17 head coach Thierry Henry has stepped down from his role a year before his contract was due to end. Henry guided France to the gold medal match in the men's football tournament on home soil, where they were beaten 5-3 by Spain. Elsewhere, TS Galaxy have signed forward Owetu Khumalo from Marumo Gallants to further strengthen their squad ahead of the new season. Khumalo is the 10th addition for the Rockets, and the 22-year-old rose from the Gauteng Development League with the Rambach under-19 before joining Morocco Swallows. In cricket, Proteas coach Shukri Conrad says that he's eyeing a place in next year's World Test Championship final after his team secured a series victory against the West Indies. The Proteas sealed a 40-run win in the second test in for a 1-0 success in the 2-match series after the first game in Trinidad that ended in a rain-affected draw. Now, the Proteas still have 6 test matches in the current cycle and will need to win all of them if they are to have a chance to advance to the final. Meanwhile, West Indies all-rounders Andre Russell and Jason Holder have been rested for this month's 3-match T20 home series against South Africa. Medium pacer Matthew Ford and all-rounder Fabian Allen, who missed the T20 World Cup, have returned to the squad. The series will be played on the 23rd, 25th and 27th of August in Trinidad and Tobago. Then 9 days to go to the Paralympics. Team South Africa have competitors across athletics, archery, cycling, judo, triathlon, swimming and wheelchair tennis amongst others. South Africa's flag bearers for the Paralympics are T40 400 meter sprinter and long jumper Mpumelelo Mhlongo and swimmer Catherine Swanepoel. Elsewhere, Kuro Hazeldean High School have offered to cover the travel expenses for Bayanda Walaza's mother, Toliwe, to attend the World Athletics Under-20 Championships in support of her son. The event set for the 27th to the 31st of August in Peru will see Walaza compete in his second major international event in less than a month after he helped Team South Africa secure a silver medal in the 4x100 meter relay at the Paris Olympic Games.
To the Hazeldean family, okay, I'll say, like, I truly appreciate what they're doing to me. Like, they're showing appreciation of what am I doing, and I'm also showing appreciation for whatever they're doing to me. So I'd like to thank them a lot, because of my coach who was here because of the Hazeldean family. They paid for him everything to come here to support me, and also they're gonna pay for my mother to come at Peru at the World Champs. So, like, I thank them a lot. Like, I'm truly thankful for whatever they're doing.
In boxing, Mike Tyson says that he's prepared for his bout with Jake Paul on the 15th of November after the fight's original date had to be postponed. The pair were due to fight on the 20th of July, but Tyson had an ulcer flare-up that forced the match with the YouTuber to be rescheduled. Now, the fight will be held at the 80,000 capacity AT&T Stadium in Texas and is a professional fight with a string of conditions. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. I'll have more on other sports tomorrow.
Listen, I want to ask you, so we haven't done our homework, you and I, about that Olympic countdown every year, because it was like the weekend. Okay, we need to restart that. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But I mean, the point that was, you quoted someone earlier on about Rassie Erasmus and how innovative he's been by playing against Australia, not against Portugal, like against a major power, and effectively having a virtually changed team, making the point that he needs to develop the talent that ultimately is to win the World Cup again. So your thoughts on that, just making those rampant changes and having the confidence that his players will deliver, and ultimately they delivered.
They always deliver, and I've always liked the way that he's thought around implementing his changes. He's very strategic in how he brings in certain players for different matches. I think I've always liked just how he thinks generally, and it's quite interesting to see how he's going to rebuild a new side that is going to go and defend the World Cup. But I'm liking what he's doing right now.
I must tell you, I've often said that I'd love to have a one-on-one conversation with Alex Ferguson. I've clearly read his book, so the mind is brilliant, right? But reading Rassie's book now, and I'm reading it right now properly, the mind is absolutely something else. So, I mean, ideally, Alex Ferguson, Rassie Erasmus, Pitso Mosimane have those. I'm talking sports specifically. Then have a business conversation some other time. But those three, just to get into their minds, because I think there are leadership lessons to learn from that, which the country could use.
And
actually.
Pep?
Yeah, that's it. More
Pep,
sports.
what about Pep? Guardiola.
No, let's move on. Thank you. More sports tomorrow.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
You heard that story of a South African who somehow met someone, went to Croatia, I think it was, and got locked up, and now he's on the way back. There's this huge story. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk to her as well later on. So listen out for that. Okay. Let's, however, get to the business issues that we normally do with Jimmy Moyaha, with the SAFM business reporter. Jimmy, good chatting to you as always. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed, pretty well. Monday afternoon it is, and I don't believe in Blue Mondays, just so that you know that. Let's talk about your big nugget for the day, the financial implications of fertility treatment. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we do our personal finance segments on a Monday, and this week's personal finance segment, we're actually taking a look at the financial costs of this decision. I mean, there are obviously other emotional costs and family discussions that come with deciding to go the fertility treatment route, but the financial implications are excessive. I mean, some of these treatments cost as much as 200,000 Rand, and medical aid doesn't necessarily cover all of that. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the expenditure that comes with the different forms of fertility treatment and what considerations you need to think about from a budgeting point of view, but also from a financial planning point of view. Some of these conversations you might want to have with a financial planner, some you might want to have alongside your professional medical advisor as well. And our job here is to just ensure that we can bring light to how expensive some of these treatments are and how to best plan and be prepared for them. Alongside those conversations, we're also going to be looking at the latest survey by Sweep South. They're a South African app that provides various services for hire, and they've come up with a report particularly focusing on the stats that they measured from 5,600 domestic workers that are registered within their platform around everything from how much they're earning, what they're spending on, what concerns them, and we're going to look into that and just understand the state of that market and the state of that platform as well. Then we've got a conversation with the CEO of Tungela Resources, July and Ndlovu. They gave us their 6 months update for the 6 months ended June, and we're going to speak to the CEO around what their business looks like at the moment. Coal prices haven't been doing too well. We're going to try and understand whether demand is back in the picture and how the business is faring going into the next 6 months. And then we've got a conversation with Denker Capital around ABSA. We got a 6 months update from ABSA as well, but alongside that update, more importantly, we got the resignation or early retirement announcement of the CEO, Ari Rautenbach. He intends to step down before his time, and there have been obviously succession conversations around this, but this is effectively the sixth CEO, the interim CEO will be the sixth CEO that we've seen in 5 years, and we're going to look into that and just understand what's happening at ABSA and how to make sense of everything that's developing or unfolding from that perspective. But before we get to that, let's do a quick summary of what's been moving in the markets. It looks as though it's been a good day. It's been a great day for South African markets, but let's start with international markets as they were trading first in some cases. Asian markets, Sydney was flat, Hong Kong was up almost a 4%, mainland China up 0.5%, the Nikkei in Tokyo down 1.4%. Then we move on to European markets. They were all in the green, with the FTSE and the DAX up 0.5% each, and the CAC 40 in France up 0.8%. The Nasdaq in the US is currently 0.4% in the green, with the S&P and the Dow also looking similar, 0.4% there and 0.5% respectively. If we look at South African markets, they had a stellar day. We start with the underperformer being the Industrials 25. That was only up 0.2%, whereas financials were up 1.4% and resources up 2.3%. The all share as a result was up 1.2%, with the top 40 up 1.2% as well. Really strong start to the week, and possibly a strong start or strong way to end out the month of August. Things are looking very positive at the moment. If we look at currencies quickly, the Rand also strengthening against the dollar at 17 Rand 72, gaining 0.2% there, with the euro at 19 Rand and 60 cents. 1 British pound will cost you exactly 23 Rand. 1 Australian dollar will cost you 11 Rand and 90 cents. Those that are keeping an eye on commodities prices, The price of gold at $2,502 an ounce, briefly having hit highs of 2,510 on some platforms. So new all-time highs on the gold price to start off the week. It's going to be a big week. The price of Brent crude $79.55 a barrel. The price of platinum and palladium, platinum $963 and palladium $920 an ounce there. Price of Bitcoin for those that are watching that, $58,731. Coin that works out to roughly 1,040,000 rand if you are to do the conversion at current rates. The price of Ethereum also giving back a bit, $2,590 an ounce. So we've got quite a bit to dig into, especially ahead of the big week that is the Jackson Hole week. But we'll dig into these and other stories a little later on.
Jimmy, before I let you go, so if I was talking about the universe, I'll tell you all about the black hole. But since we're talking in your space, a different sort of space, what is a Jackson Hole?
So essentially, it is a gathering of all the finance ministers, central bankers, key financial institutions, decision makers, the likes of BlackRock, Berkshire Hathaway. It's a giant lekgotla of financial services policy makers and decision makers around things from monetary policy to outlooks and how they navigate the world space. It happens in America, and it is hosted by the US Fed. So we get conversations from everyone from Jerome Powell to other industry leaders and business leaders, and it usually drives a lot of volatility and a lot of market movement if there are surprises that come out of the conversations there, or if there are sentiments that the market might not have been prepared for. So it is a very, very big week in the financial calendar, and it is taking place at the end of this week in the US. So we're going to be building up to that all week long.
Okay, and of course, and they do call it a lekgotla, right? Don't answer that question. I get what you're saying, right? By the way, from an audience point of view, if there's some things, I'm talking like Idiot's Guide concepts that you need Jimmy to answer as we end the show every day around this time with him for a maximum 1 minute. What is it? You can tweet it out, you can Facebook me, you can also send us a WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Jimmy, enjoy your show.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat it? From inside his own half! Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more. Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
And by the way, if you wish to join the WhatsApp channel, the National Pulse, that's what it's called, a WhatsApp channel, just WhatsApp us, 0614 104 107, just say join channel. Here's a quick comment. Hi Ashraf, great show. Simon from Peter Maritzburg. The question is, does the ANC know what was the cause of their loss? And that is important. What caused the ANC to lose the election? And then continuing to say, Naledi Pandor, that former Foreign Affairs Minister, what a great leader she was. Ramaphosa is a good leader, but he's soft, and I just don't know Why? The ANC wants to get the majority. They must bring Naledi Pandor back. I have a sense she's retired from effective public office. She'll do lots of other things. But I think Naledi Pandor is a potential candidate for presidency. Should have happened like 10 years ago maybe, but that's gone, right? Okay, we'll take your comments and calls in a few minutes' time. In the meantime, a South African woman who was allegedly brutally assaulted by 3 men in Croatia, right back home in the country, after being evacuated by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation with her child. This after a video of her desperately pleading for help went viral on social media. You see, social media has its purposes, right? So Basitsana Horan could not immediately come back to South Africa as her son was born in Croatia. And that needed a visa. So it's rather complicated. Dirko's Clayson Moniela was then instrumental in facilitating her return. Let's get the story behind the story, because I think the human stories are really important. Basitsana, I appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, so you're back home.
Yes, I am.
So that's
I'm very happy to be back home.
the good news, right? We could play the national anthem for you, because I'm sure that's what you must have felt when you finally saw the South African flag to say, this is home for me.
No, I was actually very happy when I was flying from Dubai to Joburg, and when the moment the pilot said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board for the trip to Johannesburg," and I was very happy. I was like crying.
Oh, there you are. So it seems like, I mean, as per my introduction, that you've had a miserable story. I mean, tell us what happened.
Yeah. I went to Croatia in 2018, and I was there because I got married to the father of my child, and it was a very tumultuous marriage. And I finally decided to move out this year in March, and what was supposed to be a fresh start for me and my son turned out to be a nightmare. I was complaining a lot about the things that my landlord was doing. He would come into my apartment when I wasn't around using his own key. Sometimes he would come while me and my son were around, and I would be in the shower. Then he would be like taking pictures, including pictures of my son half naked.
So wait, let me interrupt you here. So let me get this right. You got married to a Croatian national. I get that, right? Okay.
Yes.
And at some stage that relationship ended, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now the person you're referring to is not him. You're referring to the landlord.
The landlord, yes.
Who's coming into your home unannounced and opening up the doors and
Yes.
taking pictures. Okay, carry on. Yeah.
Yes. Then I would told him about the things not working. Sometimes we would go like a day or two without water. Sometimes the water, like the water would be there but cold, so we wouldn't be able to shower, and the shower itself was also leaking. So I had a lot of problems with him, and also he refused to give me utility bill. He would just up the price every month without me seeing what I'm paying for. Then he decided to verbally terminate my contract with him, and I said, okay, that's fine, I don't mind, because I wasn't happy here anyways, but I would need 1 month to get out of the apartment, to look for another apartment. So the week after that, I called him again. I told him that the shower is giving me a problem again. That was a week after he terminated my contract. And for some reason, this time, he said that I made up stuff. I made it up. The shower wasn't leaking. He said I made it up because he terminated my contract. But remember, I had been telling him about the problems that I was having in the house for a very long time. It was shocking to me that now he said that I was making things up. And he came. He said he would come to fix the shower, and then he came. That was the first attack. He came and stormed into the house and attacked me. He started taking things out of the house, my son's stuff and my stuff. He took everything out, took out the doors, switched off electricity, took my keys.
So, and when you say he attacked you, I mean, did he physically hurt you?
Yes, he physically hurt me, and we called the police. The police, when they came, they took his side. He told me that I had to sign something, because I told them that it was a verbal agreement that I have to leave, and they said, well, if he writes down something right now, you have to leave, because then it would be a binding contract. So they told him to write a contract where he would like a termination contract. So he wrote it, but he wrote it in Croatian, and I refused to sign it because he wrote it right there and then, and I wasn't going to sign something that I didn't understand. So the police threatened me. They told me that they would put me in jail. They would handcuff me. They ended up not doing so, and then everyone left. The police told him to come after 30 days. That would be the 30th of August, when I'm supposed to move out. And then 2 days later, I went to the embassy because I felt scared that if the police are even doing this to me, I can only imagine what's going to happen next if I don't do anything.
Okay, so I'm going to fast forward because we're running out of time. So the bottom line, you obviously had this terrible, you had this tumultuous relationship firstly, and then you had the second tumultuous connection or relationship, if I can call it that, with your landlord. So, but at that stage, up to then, although your relationship would be your former husband, right? That had ended. You were still planning to stay in Croatia, right? Then, at which stage did you decide I'm going to go back to South Africa?
No, actually, when I moved out of my marital home, I knew that I wanted to leave because I had a lot of racial incidents in Croatia, and I had no social life there. My son and I were just always in the house. If I wasn't working, we would always just be in the house. We had no friends. We had nobody there. Okay. So I just I was planning to eventually come back home this year. It's just that what happened made things worse, more unbearable for me. So as I told you, when I went to the embassy to report what happened, I came back and all our stuff were out. They changed the doors. They changed the locks. I went to report about it. Again, they didn't take me serious. The second day, because my son and I had nothing to wear, nothing to eat, I went there in an attempt to try to get our stuff back. That's when they attacked me. Dennis Minatich, the landlord, and his two sons. They attacked me. Each one of them would hold my hands from the back, in order for me to not defend myself. So they would attack me. They undressed me. I was wearing a simple dress, and I was naked at that time. My son was sitting there just watching and asking them to stop.
Okay, how did you? Really, you had this terrible ordeal, and I'm going to just push on because we don't have much time. I'm really sorry about that. Okay. How then? What was the role then of international relations in? What role did they play in finally getting you out of Croatia into South Africa?
They helped with my son's visa. They fast-tracked the visa process because my son's visa was my son's passport was banned back in 2021 when I was home and I was again trying to flee the toxicity in Croatia. Okay,
and you made the point about justice. What would be justice for you?
I want the man that attacked me in front of my child and kicked me out in a place that I brought to book.
And who would pursue that for you?
I would also, because it's no longer about just them alone. The police were there. These people much involved in what happened to me.
Okay, so who would you expect to help you? Would it be international relations or others?
I expect people like the DICO, International Relations, and Commission, and just come up and help me because move forward and heal. Well, I would need some closure. And
I tell you, I hope you get your closure. This sounds like a terrible, terrible story. So on behalf of, I think all of us here, the channel, myself and Timber and Keys and Fusani, the whole team, and I'm sure everybody listening in, I'm really sorry, and I hope that things will sort itself out and you'll get the justice and then restart your life in South Africa. I just said, DNA, it's RSA. So, Basisana, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
There we are. Basisana. There you are. You can hear the child on cue coming in and saying certain things. Well, just to tell you, by the way, that the EFF's leader, CIC Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema, will be addressing the Gauteng Provincial Ground Forces Forum of the party now, 6 o'clock. It's going to happen now. This will be happening at the Orlando Stadium, and of course we will cover it extensively, as you have. I've no doubt about that. Let's get some further comments from some of the people as we get to the end of the show. Here's one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Sebata from Sibuke. My take is on the Senzo Mewa case regarding the two analyses, the recalled one and Vodacom lady. The Vodacom lady said that her analyst data can be edited because it's in a PDF format, the way it was extracted. So, if she says her data can be edited, I'm telling you that she's lying through her teeth. PDF can be edited. So how do we know that she has edited her info? And how do we know that the recalled guy has edited his info? We need specialists on this case to come and analyze both datas so that we can see which one was edited. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon, SAFM listeners. Two-state solution is such an unfair solution, if you can call it that even. Why is it that whenever colonialists have to be bargained with, we need to end up sharing what they took from us? It's an unfair scenario. So they come into our countries, take our resources, take away our rights, take away our culture, our heritage, our legacies, and the only way we can get it back is if we share it with them. What's up with that? Why is that always the only way out? Why does Israel not go back to where they came from? So back to Germany, back to the UK, back to the States. Go and you got dual citizenship. Go back to those countries. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, so those comments, I don't have time to comment because we're just about out of time for the show, but thanks for giving those views that we've had across the board, across the nation, all throughout the show. Let me just end with this point, right? Run your business the way you would run a community project with clear deadlines, intentions, and outcomes. Then run your NPO the way you would run your business. Cut out being amateurish in approach. Consider a purpose-driven outcome as the NPO equivalent of profit. Hopefully you've got that. We'll do this show, The National Pulse, reflecting exactly what you feel about this nation every day and get your pulses racing. We'll do it again tomorrow, 3 to 6. Feel free to connect with us on social media and do join the WhatsApp group, the channel, The National Pulse, 0614 104 107. It's 6 o'clock. It's time for the news. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, Pastor Mboro to remain in custody and arrests over Northwest looting. Good evening. Pastor Paseka Mboro Motswaneng and his bodyguard will remain in custody until the 21st of October after being denied bail in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court in Gauteng. Ivan Mboro's son has been released on a warning with conditions. A video went viral on social media showing the 3 men armed with pangas and a gun forcibly entering a primary school in Katlehong, east of Johannesburg. They're facing charges including kidnapping and assault, among others. Magistrate Katlego Mokoena.
Applicant 1 and 2 have not discharged the onus that rests on them and have not adduced any evidence which has satisfied this court that it is in the interest of justice that they be admitted to bail. Applicant number 3, there is no basis that he should be detained until the finalization of this matter, and therefore the court shall grant his release from custody. Applicant number 3, you are released on warning with the following conditions. You are to have no direct or indirect contact with the witnesses of this matter. You are prohibited from entering the said school premises